Well, Sean's going back there.
Okay, well.
Yeah. We're here for you.
That's what Harriet's here for.
Test.
1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2.
Tara. Tara. Can you hear it? Tara.
Test 1,
Can you hear it, Tara?
1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2.
Tara.
All right, sounds like yourself.
Tara, can you hear? Now you get that hum now. All right.
I guess let's get started here. Ron Caffrey, can you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you, sir.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We've got our invocations by Deacon Michael Bonacore from St. Isidore's. Deacon Bonacore, do you want us to sit or stand, or
I'll stand, thank you.
would you like us to sit or stand?
Oh, no, yeah, why don't we stand?
Okay.
In the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. God our Father, of power and might, wisdom and justice, through your authority is rightly administered, laws and acts and judgments are rendered. I ask you to assist with the spirit of your counsel, fortitude, wisdom, and justice, the members of the Riverhead Town Board. Give them wisdom in every decision and help them to think clearly. Grant them discernment and common sense so they'll be strong and effective leaders. Help them to lead and govern with integrity and guide them to follow your principles and not their own. Direct their steps according to your word, for their decisions greatly impact the lives of this community. And finally, Father, look upon all of us here who attend this meeting. Grant us all patience and understanding to have courage and faith in you, no matter what decisions are rendered, as we face these day-to-day concerns. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Deacon Bonacore from St. Isidore's. That was wonderful. Harriet Haas, I understand that you're going to sing us a song. We've got a, yes, bring the microphone. Warren McKnight is going to do the accompanying photos, I guess.
Yeah, it's wrapped around.
You know, I still have that fax in my office you sent.
Can you
That was great, Warren.
just don't trip there on that. Just be careful.
Okay.
Yeah, come over here. Harriet, come
Harriet's
over here.
going to sing a holiday song
Over
for
here,
us.
Harriet.
We go in here.
Because we want to see you on camera. Okay?
Oh,
There you go.
See me on
Okay,
camera.
let's go ahead. You got to face that.
Hello,
Okay?
everybody.
There you go.
Well, we have a great big crowd today, and happy holidays to everybody. And here we go. Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright, round yon virgin mother and
Absolutely.
We would love that. Oh, you better watch out. You better not cry. Better not pout. I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is coming to town. He's making a list. He's checking it twice. Gonna find out who's naughty and nice. Santa Claus is coming to town. He sees you when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake. He knows if you've been bad or good. So be good for goodness sake. Oh, you better watch out. You better not cry. Better not pout. I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is coming. Oh, Santa Claus is coming. Yes, Santa Claus is coming to town. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Harriet.
Thank you very much.
Harriet, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now the highway department's going to get the wrong idea that we just sit near town hall and sing songs all day. Okay, Councilman Wooten, we've got some presentations to make. Councilman Wooten, we'll meet you down front with the rest of the council.
Gio, why don't you come forward and represent the? We've got a lot of highway department workers.
Bring them all up.
Bring them. All right, you all want to come up? All right,
Come
fill
on up, guys.
this is about half your crew. Actually, about most of your crew.
Sweep some roads or something.
What do you say, guys?
Come up.
Bite your tongue.
Guys, you come on, they don't want to get near the town board. Go around your
No, you sit on the table. Audie was there. Except for three. Back row.
This is the entire town highway department.
Okay, I think it's important that we notice that this is the Riverhead Highway Department minus 3 people, but this is your entire Riverhead Highway Department. So the reason the town board today wanted to bring them down and recognize them. Sometimes it's something we as elected officials take for granted, our workers in the town. They all do a great job, whether it's buildings and grounds or whether it's electric, engineering, you name it. They all do a great job, but especially the highway department, and we wanted to recognize them today. As the residents of this town are aware, our Highway Superintendent George Woodson is responsible for maintaining and repairing the roads, ensuring roads are cleared and safe for use in response to emergencies involving inclement weather affecting our roadways. Gio, along with every man on his department, and I'll make sure there's no women. Every man on his highway department is deserving of praise and acknowledgement for hard work they perform throughout the various seasons of the year. This past year, 2010 into 2011, the winter season, I rode a couple times with these guys. The winter season delivered our fair share of snow, with the first snow event occurring in December and a major snow event in January. By 6 a.m., the town had over 9 inches of snowfall covering our roads, which continued for another few hours, delivering another 6 inches. To the credit of our highway superintendent and his crew, by early to mid-morning of the storm, including January 12th storm, our main and even secondary roads were made passable. This summer, the high winds and rain of the Hurricane Irene downed poles, branches, and uprooted trees, and sent our highway department to work on clearing and removing debris to make the roads safe for vehicle and pedestrian travel. The speed of the cleanup was impressive. I must also give credit to our highway department for work throughout the year. Road repair and maintenance, mowing, sweeping, tree removal, stump removal, plowing, sanding, and repairs to equipment. And although road work is one of the most visible tasks accomplished by the department, it should be noted that in an effort to become more efficient, do more with less, dollar-wise and staffing, the highway superintendent has saved taxpayers considerable money by purchasing purchasing equipment and purchases of sand and research of implementation of new sand and salt techniques and road improvements and construction designed to address unique stormwater and flooding issues. We have a great team of highway personnel. They're ready, they're willing and able to work long and hard to combat the winter and other storm events, and they should be congratulated for their efforts to keep the public safe. And there's so much more that they do that we take for granted, whether it's trimming trees, taking trees down, repairing sidewalks, whenever, even for events, whether it's the country fair or whether it's the Polish fair or whether it's events that BIT put on. They get there, they clean the roads, they make it beautiful. They really do a lot of work for our town. And so often we see them out there and we give them a little wave, but they really deserve much more than that. So today, because the winter is upon us and we're hoping that the snow stays away, but we want to recognize them with a certificate of appreciation to the whole entire highway department. Thank you, Chief.
I just want to thank all my workers. Everybody pulls together in time of need to get the job done when we need to get it done. I would be remiss if I didn't mention Sue and Donna, who are not here. They are secretary administrative assistants, but I did this so you guys would appreciate me and Mark. We all got our issues, we all do this and that, but when it comes through in the long run, we all stay together and do our job. And that's the way I want to keep it. So for me, to you guys, I just want to say thank you.
There are no finer group of men and women than this highway department, because if you look at it and you look at the size of our town and you realize suddenly that we don't probably have enough highway workers, but they get it done. So every time you're out there and maybe you're not quite happy with the way everything's going with the paving the road, not paving, plowing the roads and things of that nature, just look at the workers and realize that these guys are working their tails off for you. And when times get better, we're hoping to increase the staff in the highway department. We know it's tough. It's tough right now and with all the municipalities, but these guys do a wonderful job. So all the residents out there, you know, when you see them, say hello, give them a bottle of water, shake their hands, acknowledge them. They do a great job. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
Stuff off you already know about, I guess. It's like a receiving machine.
Thank you.
Thank you for it all.
Good job.
He knew so
Take care.
Good on you guys. Good job. Got y'all don't trip a little while. Good job.
He's got sawdust on him and everything.
We're working there.
Working.
Where do you want
Oh,
this?
wait, let's stay down there. We got the dog coming in.
Oh.
We have a dog
Just
coming
don't know
in.
what trips on it.
Where's this going on?
It was just sitting there.
Who is it?
Is Ben, Tara, is Ben out there? Yes. Ben the dog? Ben is a hound boxer mix.
Oh, you're old, huh? Wow.
You want to do the pleasures on that?
You. Here he comes.
All right, well, as we do every board meeting that's in the afternoon, we bring one of our shelter pets in, and we've got Ben, who's a year old, and Ben is a hound boxer mix, gender male neutered, 1 year old, And looks like a great dog. Yeah, oh, you're a very friendly dog. Very friendly. Would you like to say something? No. So, I don't know. There's a lot of new people. Oh, that's the hound part. There's a lot of new people in the audience here. So, are there any takers? Come on. Ben's owner might be sitting right here in the audience. Come on. Come on. All right. What's the phone number? Do we remember that phone number?
6189. 369.
369-6189 if you want to adopt Ben. He looks like a beautiful dog.
He's a great dog. Wow, he's point already.
Nice, good looking dog. Okay.
That won't be there long.
Thank you very much. Oh, there you go. Patch will take him home.
I'm waiting for.
All right, thank you.
This one's on the doors coming out.
Where does that go?
On here? Oh, you're not going to check. Okay.
Mr. Kozakevich? Mr. Kozakevich? Thank you.
You're welcome. All right.
Been there January 17th. Thank you.
Hey, Bob, do you not want to be known? Your name's there?
No.
Just checking.
All right. They are on. Yes. Can we make a motion, John, for the approval?
I want to make a motion, we approve the minutes of November 15th, 2011 meeting. So moved.
That's seconded.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
The minutes are approved.
Diane, reports.
Okay, under reports, under fire district information, Matterville and Riverhead Fire Districts sent in their notice of their annual election, and they're both for December 13th. Under correspondence, Kathleen Courtney, a letter of resignation from the IDA Board. Linda Morgulin of Bracken Morgulin Isunder, a letter concerning extension of site plan approval for Head River LLC. Riverhead Neighborhood Preservation Coalition, along with Wading River Civic Association and Group for the East End, sent a letter requesting a formal Wading River Corridor Study public workshop. Fine Arts and Sciences LLC, also a letter requesting formal Wading River Corridor Study public workshop. One email requesting adoption of a short-term moratorium for the Wading River Corridor. Jane Laura Barker of PETA and Giblin LLP, representing Local Union 813 IBT, a letter regarding bid for residential solid waste collection and disposal for Riverhead Refuse and Garbage District. Under reports, Town Clerk monthly report for November was $10,517.42. Building Department monthly report for November, $55,255. Tax Receiver monthly utilities collections report for November, $413,964.42. The Police Department submitted their monthly report for October, and Sewer District submitted their monthly report for October, their discharge monitoring report. And that's it.
Okay, I have one thing to report. I know the board knows, but I want to let as many people in the public know as possible. I want to publicly thank Bill Rothar, our financial administrator, Mike Lagercio, the people at Munistat, our entire accounting department. We are now officially done. Our audits are completely up to date. We sold last Tuesday, a week ago, $22 million in serial bonds, and we received a rate of an average rate of 3.05, which is absolutely phenomenal in this market. In the time when the federal government's been downgraded, County of Suffolk, I think, was downgraded the day we sold our bonds. For us to sell bonds at that rate is just, it's a testament to the strength of the people that work in this town. And we're on our way. The landfill is just about behind us. We've got to pay for it now, but everything associated with the landfill and all the debt for the past 4 years is now finally behind us, and we'll work on paying it off. So kudos to everybody that was involved in that, and I'm sure that I missed somebody in that line of people. Anyway, any other committee reports?
Yes, on a brighter note, well, that should be bright, but the bonfire is this Saturday night. I think we'll be watching it, if you get a chance to watch it before Saturday, the 10th. It's from 4 to 9 on the riverfront. It's a community bonfire. Santa Claus will be arriving by 5 o'clock by boat. We'll have a tree lighting. We'll have some music down there, and Santa Claus will pose for pictures. We have candy canes, hot chocolate. It's a great event. It's a no-cost event. The town sponsors it, and the bid helps to offset the cost, so the bid's involved with it. It's a great time. It really is a great community event, and we encourage everybody to come down and enjoy it this Saturday night on the river.
Okay, any other committee reports?
I just want to announce once again to the hunters out there that the January EPCAL gun hunting lottery is December 19th, right here in the town boardroom at 6 o'clock.
All right. I know some of you are new to the audience, so the way the town board works is we have a public hearing first, and if you want to talk about anything other than the public hearing, at the public hearing is not the time to speak. The public hearing is on a local law, and we'll open that, and you can comment on that local law. If there's nobody that wishes to be heard, we'll close it, and then we'll take comments on resolutions. And okay, let's open up the first and only public hearing. Is a public hearing on chapter 108-34, and this is definitions of accessory apartments. And Jody, did you want to say anything about this?
Yeah, right now the code prohibits, if you're building a new house, it prohibits you from building it with an accessory apartment inside of it. It says that you have to wait from 3 years from the date of the issuance of a certificate of occupancy in order to have an accessory apartment. And with the economy the way it is, and with our seniors or in-laws or parents having to look for places, assisted living, and things of that nature, we found that it was difficult to be able to build a house and to be able to house your parents or in-laws in it. So we're allowing you to have an accessory apartment from the time you build a house, or within that 3 years after you get a CO, so that you can accommodate your parents or in-laws or anybody else to help you pay the mortgage and the taxes.
Okay, and since I didn't say it, 205 having come and gone, we're going to officially open the public hearing and make everything part of the record. So does anybody wish to be heard on this local law? Yes, Sal. Excuse me, Mr. DiLiberto.
Sal is fine, Sean. Thank you.
How you doing?
Thank you. Sal DiLiberto, Manor Lane in Jamesport. I'm right now going through an accessory apartment application, so I'm a little reluctant to speak out about it.
You look okay, though.
But the proposal to a change is at least a recognition that the law is flawed and that it needs to be changed. I agree with that. The way the law is structured right now, not only do you need to have a certificate of occupancy for the primary dwelling, but because the law allows you to have an accessory apartment in an accessory structure, you also have to have a certificate of occupancy for the accessory structure for a period of 3 years, which even prolongs it more. The problem that I see with this particular proposal is that it opens the doors to something that I don't think we want to open the doors to. This law has been in effect now for about 4 years. It's clear that very few people, I think less than 30 people, have taken advantage of this law over a period of almost 4 years. It'll be 4 years, I think, in February. And you have to ask yourself the reasons why. I don't think the reasons why have to do with having to wait for 3 years before your primary residence has a certificate of occupancy. I think the problems go way beyond that. If you do allow this change in the law, I think it opens up the doors to people, and I know we're at sort of a down point in the real estate market right now, there's no doubt about it, so we don't have to look at a lot of development going on in the town. But if I was a developer, and if the cycle was up at the top again, which it will be someday, I'd be looking at this law and the change in the law as an opportunity. And I'd say to myself, I know how I'm going to market my properties. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try to find the least costly pieces of property I can in the town of Riverhead. And I'm going to market them as a basic, almost two-family house, even though it's in a one-family zone. So I would buy property in the least costly area of town. I would build the smallest possible structure that I could under the town code, and then I would include in it a accessory apartment. And that would allow me to market the properties more quickly. But we don't have in the town of Riverhead, as they have in Brookhaven and some other towns, any kind of limitation on the number of accessory apartments that you could have in one particular area. For example, in Brookhaven, there's a saturation factor, I think, of 5% within a certain geographic area. Here, you could have a builder who came in and put up, 10 houses in one section of town and have them.
They were all two-family houses.
Yeah, they're basically all two-family houses, which I don't think you want to have. But it's further complicated by the fact that you have other basic problems. Like I said, I'm going through an accessory apartment application right now, and the decision's pending. But the problem that I see is in the structure of the law. The fact that the law, the way it exists right now, requires the input of the legal department and the building department into whether or not a person's application really qualifies under the law. When the law was first proposed, it was proposed and the space of 300 to 650 square feet was supposed to be habitable living area. Habitable living area is a term of art, has real meaning in the New York State building code, and has real meaning to architects and engineers, et cetera, in how they put together a plan. Habitable area doesn't include kitchens, bathrooms, utility rooms, toilets, et cetera. But the way the law was eventually adopted, it eliminated habitable. I don't know why. I wasn't here for that meeting, and I don't know what happened, but they eliminated habitable. And this has created great ambiguity, which I encountered, because the question is it just square foot living area? Not living area, but square foot area. And that's the legal department's opinion was it had to be defined as square foot area, floor area of the proposed accessory apartment. That makes no sense in light of New York State building code, which is a part of all of our building codes here in the town of Riverhead, because in New York State they say you can't consider something to be a living area unless it has a ceiling of at least 5 feet, and unless there's at least a 7-foot ceiling and a high percentage of the room. So I think that changes do need to be made to this law. I think you definitely should look at changing it so that a person does not need to have a 3-year wait if they have an accessory structure on the property. If somebody wants to put up if someone has a house and they've lived there for 10 years and they want to put up a garage, for example, and they want to have as a part of that structure a accessory apartment, right now under the way the law exists, you can't do it. And I think you should be allowed to do that to allow those people to not have to wait an additional 3 years after they've been here that long. There's other problems with the law that relate to how it works as between the accessory apartment review board and the building department. Under the law right now, you're asking a person to go out, hire an architect or a professional engineer, draw up a set of plans, and that's not going to be for free. Submit those plans to the building department, pay the required fees, and then wait for their approval. But even after they get their approval from the building department, and after they've spent that money, they then have to go to the accessory apartment review board. And for a variety of reasons, the accessory apartment review board may say, yes, the building department approved it, but we don't. I think, if anything, if you're going to continue with that type of two-step process, the second step should come first. You should be able to go to the accessory apartment review board and say, I am intending to have an accessory apartment within building department guidelines and the law's guidelines in terms of square footage, et cetera. But if I do that, I would like to go through the process right now with you to see if you would permit that. Here's my house, here's a survey, here's where the people would park, et cetera. Here's, if you want to ask me about the other properties I own, want me to prove this is my primary residence, I will. But you shouldn't ask a person first to spend money and then tell them, well, maybe we'll give you approval, maybe we won't. So there are problems with the law. It does need to be changed, but I don't think it's just a one-step process. You have to make it less ambiguous. You have to not have to have the legal department advising the building department on questions that are ambiguous because of the way the law was drafted. And you shouldn't also try to put people in a situation where they may spend monies for nothing. Lastly, I don't know how this has affected the situation over the past 4 years, but I know that this law was intended to try to legalize illegal apartments too, and I'm sure that this law has not done that. It has not accomplished this objective, and I don't know exactly how or if if anybody has applied who has an illegal apartment. But my thought would be, if I had an illegal apartment, and I agree with you, Jody, that these are tough economic times, you know, and I grew up in a house where we had an apartment, and when times were tough, we all moved downstairs to live downstairs. When times were good, we got to use the extra space. But when times are tough right now, I can't imagine a person who has an illegal apartment coming to the town and saying, I have an illegal apartment, I'd like to legalize it. Here's my plan, I'll submit it to the building department, and then the building department says, fine, this should be fine, and then you go to the accessory apartment review board, and if they say no, where are you then? Now
I
you've
agree.
been,
I think that the process should be changed. I think you should come to the accessory apartment review board first. The legal
right,
department has to get involved because an accessory apartment, if you're going to have an accessory apartment, that dwelling has to be owner occupied. So you have to show proof that that is your
Well,
domicile,
I know
which is where
the
you
accessory
live for the
apartment review board
majority of
does
the year.
ask for that. Yeah, that's
Because
not,
you care a lot more about the property and how the people that are living in the accessory apartment live and respect your property if you're living there also. So the legal department does have to get involved, but I understand what you're saying as far as making application to the building department, because the building department receipts it, and that's about all they do with it. They receipt it and they send it over to the town attorney's office to review. You know, well, after the permit is issued for the accessory apartment, then the building department inspects it. But there have been miscalculations as far as you're limited to 650 square feet for an accessory apartment. So someone would come in and say, I have a 650 square foot apartment, but then the space is 40 by 40, and no one was checking those numbers. So it's, you know, there's a lot of things that get picked up by the accessory apartment review board that don't necessarily get picked up by the building department.
well, then perhaps it should be a more thorough application to the building department so that you do have sort of one-stop shopping there.
I agree.
You know,
But then you get into the point where you have one person that's issuing permits, and that's a very powerful position to be in. Not saying that I don't trust our employees, but that's why we establish boards where you have a number of people looking at something to make sure you get the best result.
Yeah, I have no problem with the accessory apartment review board playing the role that they're intended to play. I think probably that role should be a little bit more defined, and the role of the building department more defined, so that the people who are involved in the process, who want to make an application, understand right up front what they'll be required to do, and the amount of time. You know, my application, I mean, I met with my architect in April and May. The application was submitted the first week in June. It's December now. You know, everything is still pending. So, you know, in terms of...
Yours was unique.
Yeah,
In-
well, yeah,
in fact.
it's unique, but it's ambiguities in the law that
Yes.
create that situation. So the law should be more clear, and the roles of the individual agencies should be more defined.
Yeah, I thought this law, and I agree with you, I thought this law was intended to stop the illegally apartments that we have in this town, and it really hasn't, because of the cost involved in getting an apartment approved and going through the building department. It has to be brought up to code. So even an old house that's not up to that was built under the code of that time, and the codes have been changed, it has to be brought up to today's code, and that could be very costly for the owner of the house. We thought we could help eliminate illegal apartments and help the owner of the house pay their mortgage by having someone live in their house. And we found out that it's very costly. Now, driving around town, which I do, I see a lot of new houses being built, and above the garages, apartments that are being built, okay? They're not finishing them, but they're putting windows in, so after they're inspected, they can finish their little apartment and put it there. I just think that this code, and so my own personal opinion, will make that worse, because now you can build it and you can rent it out as a two-family house. It's not an accessory apartment where we was going to help these older homeowners because of age and because of Social Security, help them build and get along. I think the law, the whole law, like you said, has to be looked at to make it more efficient, and so we can move people into that and try to get some of these illegally built apartments up to safety code. It may not be up to code as far as everything is concerned, but as long as the safety of the inhabitants are there, I think that we should just get these things approved and get them on the books.
I mean, I think I agree. I think, part of it had to do with trying to keep the people who have lived in this town for a long time.
Yes.
You really don't, you're not looking at new construction, trying to keep the people who've lived in this town a long
That's
time
right.
from fleeing the jurisdiction and going to North or South Carolina.
Yes.
But at the same time, it was also intended to try to provide some affordable housing for younger people,
Yes.
which is also important
Right.
for the town. And that's the area where if you make it a little bit easier on people, and a little bit less costly and a little bit less time-consuming.
Yes.
I think you'll encourage people to do that because, especially in today's financial circumstances, people could use a little extra income.
That's
Anyway,
right.
I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'd just like to add also, I disagree with the two-family concept because it's really not a two-family. The accessory apartment is limited to 650 square feet and it has to be owner-occupied. Most two-families, they can rent one half of the house to one family and another side of the house to another family. They don't live there. That's what a definition of a two-family is. And the fact that it's restricted to 650 square feet and one bedroom, I don't know what kind of family you're gonna fit into a 650 square foot apartment with one bedroom. Maybe a mother and a child or,
I guess you didn't grow up in my house.
well, I have four older,
There were
six
three
of
older
us.
sisters,
Well-
and there were six of us too, so.
Well, just look at the houses, the apartments that are being built up in Connegalia. They're 650, and they're affordable housing for the young people to move here and to get a first apartment so they can build to get into a house. And that's what the accessory apartment, and that's what this can do. So you can live, and it can be a two-family, one family being me in the house.
Sure.
Another family being Councilman Wooten living in the same house. It's two different families, not from the same family. It's not a mother-daughter.
No.
It's a two-family apartment or house.
Thank you, Sal. Does anybody else wish to be heard on this public hearing? Yes. Mr. Janowitz, how are you doing?
Hi, Michelle Janowitz. First, I just want to point out, with all due respect, a couple of things that the previous person spoken were incorrect. I process permits for a living, and also I have clients that reside in this town that need this type of code to pass. They have elderly relatives that are moving in. The cost of assisted living and nursing home is out of reach for them. And also, I also want to point out for the public that the idea of a builder coming in and buying up lots for small houses to build this is out of reach for the builder because they have to prove that they lived there prior to even applying to the accessory review board. So I really hope that this gets approved. I have people that are really hoping and angry that this code was even in existence. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Does anybody else wish to be heard on this matter? Okay, I'll close out the public comment portion and leave it open for written comment until December 16th at 4:30 p.m. That's a Friday in the town clerk's office. Now, how many of you are here to talk about the beach settlement? Raise your hands. Okay. What I'd like to try to do is have you guys, Mrs. Gabrielson, are you going to speak? Because I'm going to have you speak first if you are.
Let me get George, because.
That's a no? Mrs. Gabrielson, are you going to speak today? Oh, no, not yet, not yet. But if you're going to speak, you're going to speak first. Okay. So before we get started, I want to fill you guys in on something because there's a lot of misinformation out there. The town code allows you to drive below the mean high water mark and above the low tide mark. Before the settlement, the town code allowed you to drive below the mean high water mark. After the settlement, the town code will allow you to drive below the mean high water mark. Nothing in this settlement changes that. The doctrine there's a doctrine out there that is not followed in New York State. I'm not going to necessarily get into that, but the settlement is not going to change anybody's ability to drive on the beach. What the issue here is there was a point where we thought we owned a certain piece of property, and we probably don't own that property. And I'm not going to get into any more detail than that.
Probably.
Even if you own the property, even if where the town owns property, the town code still allows you to drive below the mean high water mark. I had a conversation with a couple trustees last week, yesterday actually, and in Southampton, it is the same thing on the bay. The ocean is different. The ocean is different from the state, the ocean is different from Riverhead. But on the bay side, if you were allowed to drive, you'd be allowed to drive between the mean and the low. The public trust doctrine in New York State only allows you to drive or walk or picnic between the mean high water mark and the low. That's it. I know some of you don't want to believe that, and that's fine. We've hired a law firm that's researched it. We've brought in other lawyers that have researched it. The public trust doctrine in New York State is not the same as the public trust doctrine in the state of Florida. New York State does not recognize the government's ability to enforce the public's, I'm going to use, it's not right, prescriptive easement. We don't recognize something, and I don't think it's the right doctrine, King's Highway, but I don't think that's the right doctrine. But under common law in New York State, the government cannot give you a prescriptive easement across somebody else's property. In other states they can, Florida included. It's my understanding, I'm not a Florida lawyer. So I want to be very clear. You will see no changes in the way you drive on that beach. There will be no changes.
Can quote you on that?
You can absolutely quote me, but come up to the podium. Come up, wait, not yet, because Mrs. Gabrielson goes first.
Okay, well, let's go.
Oops. I can't read it.
Excuse me. The bottom line is that when we drive on the beach, and I drove on the beach 10, 15 years in Wading River, there is an area that you are not able to get by without going onto somebody's private property. You have my word, and I have already contacted the DEC, and I've already have Joe Hall in our office working on a way to try to figure out with the DEC how to get over that rock groin. Because the bottom line for all of you that drive in Wading River, if that one person stopped you from crossing up south of that rock groin, forget about getting around Herod Point. Most of the time you know you can't get around Herod Point. Forget about that. You're never getting around that rock groin. I will do what I can to find a way to get over that rock groin so we are not impacting private property like rights. The settlement there's one of two things that we can do. And if for those of you that drove on the beach in Wading River, when you first got on the beach, the original property owner used to erect a barricade so you couldn't cut the corner, if you will. And that was there for a long time, and that person was very, I don't want to say militant, that's probably not the right word, but always kept that barrier. They did not want you cutting the corner. The new owner does not do that. The settlement requires the town to do really one thing, one of two things. Either we're going to figure out a way to put, I don't know if any of you are Moose members, that the Moose has a gate that you put a color key card in, and it's not an automatic gate. You have to put your color key card in, you have to open it, and you have to close it. We may consider putting a gate right on the road so that, you know, it protects us as residents, it protects the fishermen because it keeps the people off the beach that don't belong on the beach. We may consider putting that in, and that would solve the problem. The cheaper thing is they're asking us to, if we don't do that, put a barrier not all the way down to the high tide mark, but a barrier down close to the high tide mark, they say with a gate, so that the fire department, it really would be probably a 4x4 post with a chain, and then the fire department would be able to unlock the chain and cut the corner, if you will. That's it. All we're going to do after that, I mean, we have to do things that we normally do, enforce our rules, which we started. Those of you that drive on the beach now in Wading River on the North Shore, you know that you should have seen that in the weekends we have patrols down there. I don't want there to be any misunderstanding. There's nothing on this settlement is going to change anything that we do now. The only difference is we're going to try to keep you from cutting the corner, put up a sign, which we do anyway, and let you do what you do always, which is most of you probably are fishermen, and I will find a way, I hope, to get over the groin. Now what I'd like to do is, I'm going to ask Mrs. Gabrielson to go first.
I would like to say something too.
Well, let me just...
you gave a version, you're one of 5 board
I'll
members.
let you speak.
Okay.
What I'd like to do, after Councilman Gabrielson is done, we'll invite Mrs. Gabrielson up. What I'd like you to do, I know there's other people that want to talk about other things. I'd like everybody to limit their comments to 5 minutes, and I'd like to take just the beach people first, and then we'll deal with other comments on resolutions so we can keep it moving and get you guys back out fishing. George.
Okay, I'd just like to make a statement here, a couple things. That barrier will be put all the way down to that southern end of that property, right down across the beach, not up a little bit, as he had misstated, all the way down to stop everyone, and he was right, from cutting the corner. So a permanent barrier will be put there. Nothing changes. Right now, if you're a pedestrian, a citizen walking on the beach, we have no town law to stop you. Whether it's right or not, there is no town law. We have a town law that says you can't drive a 4x4, but citizens with this settlement, it's spelled out specifically, pedestrians will not be able to walk on that beach north of the mean high tide mark.
On
so
private
it's
property.
Right. So you, on that, no. South.
South. He's talking about on private property.
South, sorry. Right, south. I'm looking the other way, right. But south of that mark, you cannot walk with this settlement. In other words, there's nothing in town law that says pedestrian cannot walk there. We have something by the 4x4s. It's nothing that it says that pedestrians cannot walk there. It's nothing on the law. It will now be on the law.
You're 100% right, George, and the reason you're 100% right is because
All right, so I
south
can
of
finish.
the mean high water mark is private
So,
property.
so to continue this, I'd just like to finish my piece, thank you. For 360 years, we have walked there. 360 years. Why would this board now pass a settlement, would put in a law that would stop us? For what reason would we do this now? What's the benefit? We understand you can follow the sound beaches, east and west, and that line waves back and forth, back and forth. We all understand that. But people have walked on there, and there's never been a settlement of a case, I don't think yet, where that's been stopped. So why are we setting the precedent? Because I know there's settlements for Wading River, and next it's going to be Riverhead, it's going to be Jamesport, it's going to go down because those homeowners are going to say, so in this settlement, we're going to establish a line, a spot, that we're going to, it says right in the settlement, we're going to train our police department, train them. So when they come in for summons, they know what that line is. And you will be ticketed. So if you take a stroll down the beach, a mile down the beach, wherever with your family, the tide comes in. Now you're trapped. You have 2 choices by this law. Reality will happen, no, but by the letter of this law, you have 2 choices. You're going to swim back with your family, or you're going to walk back, and you can initiate a summons. And I just don't think there's any reason to set a precedent here. The Wading River Beach, nothing's changed. Maybe not. But if you stand on the beach, you look to the east, you see the jetty. And I know Sean said, because we had discussion, that's why I came up with the idea, he may move the jetty. Well, good luck with that. Move the jetty or cover sand over. You look to the east. That jetty extends into the restricted area. You cannot go in that restricted area. It will be enforced. You are blocked. You will have no access going to the east with a 4x4 or walking over the rocks, whatever. So things will change. So you no longer go around those rocks in that jetty.
Okay, so
That's
George,
reality.
all right,
I'm
now,
just-
I'm sorry, but you're incorrect.
Can I just?
You can, but I'm gonna leave this, and this is gonna be, I'm not gonna get back and forth with the fellow council member. But I'm going to say this, the town of Riverhead, and you all know this, you know this intuitively, south of the mean high water mark is private property. The town of Riverhead cannot give you permission to traverse somebody's private property. That's trespass. If you do it, you do it. You cannot do it under color of town code. You can't do it now. We're not passing a statute. We're not changing it. The way it is now, and I promise you this, the way it is now in the law, in New York state law and in our town code, is the way it will be after the settlement. We cannot give you permission to pass across private property.
But it's not enforceable because nobody knows where that line is. That's with high tide, we've got, when the moon's
Still
out.
not gonna
That
be enforceable.
line is not established right now, so there's no way somebody's gonna take me to court because I'm 2 foot over the other side.
Even
There
after
is
this,
no,
George, it's
that's
not
why,
enforceable.
that's
Can I
why,
make a statement?
Okay.
that's
Can I
why
make a
for
statement?
all
Can I make a
these
statement?
years, it's not enforcing. It can't be enforced, we're opening a can of worms here.
We're not taking, this settlement that Sean was involved in, it's not taking anything away from the fishermen. It's not taking anything away from the walkers. We're not telling the walkers they can't walk. There's private property now. If a police officer was on the beach and he saw you walking, he can issue you a summons right now. It's the same, it's gonna be the same as it was.
You're codified
Okay.
As a police
360 years of
officer,
history.
wait a minute, wait a minute.
He's gonna finish and then unless
I, as
another
a
board
police
member
officer
is
for
gonna
20
have-
years, have been back and forth in Wading River because some people on the bluff have said, listen, there's someone on my beach. I want them removed. And I would have to walk down and tell the people on the beach that they are trespassing and that they would have to leave. If they don't leave, they're subject to arrest. And I did arrest one person who was in control of his family on the beach 20 years ago. But that's because of the town code, and they're violating private property. I could not tell anyone to go across your property for a shortcut. If somebody was walking down Herrick's Lane, and they wanted to get to the west side of town, I couldn't tell them to go, oh, wait a minute, go across Gableson's piece of property. You don't even have to walk all the way down to 25. Just cut across his property. Would he like that?
We're not
No,
talking
he
about
wouldn't.
that.
It's
We're not
private
talking about that,
property.
John.
That's why people put fences around these property, so no one can go across their property. The guys on the, if you look at the sound, go down Edwards Avenue, there's rocks, so you cannot go down and make a right turn to go on the beach. Go down Holt's Landing Road, there's a big fence there, where you can't go down Holt's Landing Road and make a right and go on the beach. These are property owners that put up these fences, and they will put up fences on the beach in Wading River. What this does is say, take down your fences, okay?
It does do that.
Huh?
It does do that.
Take down your fences, and what we will do, we'll put a barrier up, almost to the mean high water mark. I don't know how George knows how far, I don't know how far it's gonna go. That's still negotiable.
It's not negotiable. It's in a contract.
Okay.
You know, but anyway, we're not doing anything. We're not, you can still walk. You can still walk next to the bluff on private property, as long as they don't complain, and as long
You
as the
can't, you're in a
cop
provision now, John. That's
doesn't
not
ask you to
stipulated.
leave. That's
Okay,
Settlement says.
all right, unless a different council member wants to speak, I'd like to have the members of the public, George, I'm running the meeting, I'd like to have the members of the
Just a
public.
quick, nice,
I have my
generic.
5-page speech, but I really want to hear what the people have to say.
Right,
right?
that's right, okay.
And I'll just say one thing. There are some things in the settlement document, I believe in private property rights, I believe that our code says from the mean high water mark below, you can travel across the beach. But I am concerned about putting up a barrier, and if somebody does get stuck out there that's not familiar with the tides, or somebody that came and got a permit, didn't read, I just, and the fact that we're, you know, there are certain things in the settlement that concern me. One of them is attaching a survey that was prepared at the request of the applicant. I know the town did one also, But that survey is going to be attached to the settlement, and that establishes the mean high water mark. Although it refers to that the mean high water mark changes, it doesn't, the settlement is not based on the line according to NOAA and every 18 years or 20 years when it's surveyed. It refers to this survey, and that is a concern of mine.
Okay, let's, Jim, do you want to say anything?
No, just to clarify that the mean high water mark is fairly recognized, and we had our people do it, and they had their people do it, and it's almost identical. So I don't think there's a dispute of where that line is.
No, but it says.
It does change, and it should be remeasured every couple of years. Unfortunately, 60 years ago, we had a beach, and through erosion, we don't have much of a beach.
Right, Jody, I went through it, says it. Okay, Mrs. Gabrielson, would you like to speak first, ma'am?
Yeah.
How do we know she wants to say?
She said she did.
Oh, okay. Oops, the big boss is here now, I'm gonna be nice.
What are we doing all this for?
For the residents
Mom,
of the town.
no, let her speak.
Nothing will change.
Oh, I thought she asked me a
No,
question.
pull the, you gotta pull the mic, we can't hear you. Over towards you a little better?
This?
I think it's better.
I'm not used to this. I want to know, why are we changing it now? For a few homeowners, where there are thousands of residents in this area, and I know most of them because I had a big business here. Nobody wants to change. Leave it alone. Let me tell you a story. My mom was born here 125 years ago. She fished on that beach. She walked on that beach. Now, they're going to change it?
Tell them about the horseshoe
What
crabs.
for? Use your common sense. Leave it alone. It's not bothering only a few homeowners and a few pretty smart lawyers that are pushing it through. The homeowners don't want it, and I don't either. Leave it the way it was. You change that, there's going to be a big change in this town. I guarantee it.
Can I ask you a question? Mom, can I ask you a question?
She said no.
Who?
No, it's your son.
I don't hear that, but I'm 81 years old.
I know you had said to me a story, and I didn't ask her to come here. Matter of fact, they said, I don't know if you should come here and speak. So you had to say, so it's not, no sort of, but you had said a story about your mother here, and I know I just found out the other day how they actually farmed on the Sound with the horseshoe crabs, and you tell us that story, how that's interesting.
They used to pick, I get you all the time as old, maybe I'm the oldest one here, I know. The horseshoe crabs. They used to go every morning to pick horseshoe crabs so that they could feed their pigs. They had no money years ago. They were content with everything. I'm sure she couldn't say to the horseshoe crab, now come on inside, you gotta be on a high tide. I don't think so. I mean, use common sense. Who's fighting this? Who's fighting it?
Are you asking me that question?
Yeah, sure.
Are our lawyers
Talk about it, can't
here?
get too good.
I mean, if you're asking the question, here's the bottom line. We didn't bring the lawsuit. It was brought by a group of property owners. They're suing the town for $1 million, and they're suing the town. It's a 1980.
How could you let them scare you?
It's a 19. You want the answer?
Come
I'm
on.
going to give you the answer. It's a 1983 action, so you could be subject to the $1 million, the attorney's fees. But here's the real thing that people don't want to understand. The magistrate or the judge that hears the case could invalidate our town code for driving on the beach if they make a finding that under color of town code, it's a legal theory, but under that we are giving people permission to drive on private property. They could invalidate the code, and I'm not willing to take that risk, because if they invalidate the code, that'll be the end of beach driving. That's it, guys.
Well,
That's
you
it.
know what? It's worth paying $1 million to keep
Okay.
people happy. Really is. Not too many old people around that can fight it, so.
Okay, my name is Susan Reeve. You've seen me before. My ancestors go back to the 1600s, if you look back. My relative, one of my ancestors was the second supervisor of Riverhead Town, I just found out recently.
Who was that?
I don't know, but I read that. It's in books that they wrote about my parents. Okay, unfortunately Kenny's not here. I'm going to kill him for that. I want to know, what are the Zornies going to gain in this settlement?
Actually, it's the town that gains in the settlement, as far as I can tell, because they take down all their signs and all their obstructions, and it's not just the Sorneys, it's the other signs and all the obstructions. All of them come down, and the beach goes back to the way it was. The Sorneys, I think, and I can't put words in their mouth, but they reached out to us. I think that the property owners want to try to work with everybody to get this resolved and put the whole mess behind them. And this settlement doesn't do anything more than return the status quo. Because you know, Mr. Reeve, you know that I can't give you permission to trespass on private property. You know that intuitively.
Oh, I don't know that intuitively. I know it's a fact.
And that's what this case boils down to.
But none of us are going on there. The ones that are going on there are the, excuse me if anybody's Spanish, but the illegal people who have come into this town, and they take their picnics down there, they start the fires, they walk away and leave the fires going.
And that
Whereas
that
the Zornies, on the other hand, sit up on their patio and scream at people and insult volunteer firemen. I'm sorry, I'm pretty upset about that. They put boards with nails sticking up and ruin people's tires. They shoot from up there at people with pellet guns. Come on,
Okay.
You're rewarding them for their bad behavior, and it's a precedent that you don't need to start, just like what Mr. Gabriel said.
So the problem here's the problem, and you guys may not want to acknowledge this, but we as a board have to acknowledge this. We're in court, and if we win the entire case, and I know George doesn't agree with this, and you may not agree. We don't win any more than we have right now. If we win it lock, stock, and barrel, we win nothing more than we have right now. Nothing. Nothing. Not a thing.
And why are you changing it by giving them what they want?
Well, we're giving them what we give every one of you, what's in our code. That's what we're giving them. We are giving them what's in our code. We are giving up nothing, and we are gaining the signs to be removed. The Sorneys and others have agreed to cohabitate with the fishermen. And I'll tell you, it is the fire department, the Wading River Fire Department, does not have a problem. In fact, they thought the settlement was a good settlement, and they, from what I understand, would like to put the gate that you could lift with a key card or something, and that protects you guys too, because you guys that are out there fishing, you don't want people on the beach fishing in your spots that don't belong there, and that's a way to control it.
That isn't
Can I help
our
answer?
fault.
You asked that question.
That is not our fault as four-wheel drive people
Right.
and
I would-
fishermen. We are the ones who are picking up the garbage and taking it off the beach, which nobody else in the town seems to want to do. We are the ones who do the spring cleanup with Ken Danseski, who isn't here, is the one who gets it together. We'll be trespassing.
No, you won't.
Yes.
Oh, yes, we will.
Well,
Because if we get a storm and all that stuff is up behind their markers, I'm sorry, they can keep the garbage out.
We're not going to force it, because nobody's going to go down and give you tickets for cleaning up. But you're absolutely right. The stipulation says you cannot go above that mean.
Right.
So effectively, what we're putting in writing here, you can't do your garbage cleanup, your beach cleanup.
George.
We can argue it. You said yourself we can't preach it.
George, what's
So
in
you
writing
can,
here
and to
right
finish,
now?
and to finish your other question, you said what does Zornies gain?
Right.
I don't know if everybody realized it. There's a deed dispute. There's a deed dispute. Do they actually own that?
No, there is
And
not,
there's-
George.
Yes, there
That
is.
is.
I would like to answer the question, Mr. Supervisor.
But you're wrong.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Supervisor, I didn't interrupt you. May I answer the question?
Actually, you have interrupted me many times.
Can I? All right, somebody's got to keep score here. So anyway, there is actually a deed dispute. They say no. Our own assessor went back, and there's gray area. I could, 99%, 90%, 50% chance they own it, maybe, but there's a chance that we haven't cleared that deed. That was quitclaimed in 1979 by the bank, and before that, no one paid taxes on it, no one owned it, and the old monuments are still up by the bluffs. So there's a little gray area there. This allows them, nowhere in the future can we challenge that.
Okay.
It's a
Now-
done deal. They will own it, and maybe they do, but there's definitely a gray area there. There's no question about it. And they also, what they'll gain out of there is they'll gain the barrier that we're gonna put up at our expense.
Right.
So there is a couple, and they're also looking, and their settlement stretches all the way up to Creek Road. They want us to do striping and the parking. It's not even, this settlement goes into your tax dollar paying for improvements to Creek Road,
Okay,
which
George,
is mostly
my
parking.
turn. All right,
Okay,
George.
I'm done.
You are absolutely 100%, 1,000% wrong about the deed dispute.
Absolutely wrong.
Absolutely wrong. We've researched it.
99%.
We have researched it. You can shake your head. I know he's saying what you want to hear.
No, he's
Sometimes
not.
it's not, ma'am, sometimes it's not popular to sit up here. He's telling you what you want to hear.
No.
There is no deed dispute with those properties right up in the area of, I don't want to pick on the Sorneys, but right up there. But even if there were a deed dispute, it wouldn't make a difference because just to the east, the people own to the high water mark. And so,
Just to the west also.
How?
Because that's what their deeds say. And-
Because they paid to have it added? That's not right.
because somebody
Quitclaim?
sold it to them, and
But
it's
the state of New York
private
doesn't
property.
recognize that.
You know what bothers me about this whole thing? What bothers me about this whole thing is that the people, if I wanted to drive on your private property, you'd have a fit. But nobody wants to recognize that these people have deeds, they have rights.
They had them added. You have enough money, you can have anything put on, any paperwork.
You have to research this.
Keep going.
Late in the 1800s, the person who owned that property owned it all the way down into the water.
I have
Into the water.
my grandfather's
Then
deed. It
what-
doesn't say that.
Yeah,
No,
I
it does
researched
not.
this.
I have my grandfather's
You
deed.
may not own to the mean high water mark.
Nope. It
But
says to Long
these
Island
people
Sound.
did, and it's
Beach.
on there, in the 1890, when they subdivided this in the early 1900s, they subdivided to the bluff. And he didn't sell anybody the sand. He didn't even give it to the town, so we don't own that property. So what happened was, when the research in the 70s, they found out that this fellow did own it all the way to the, under the water, and they said, okay, we'll give you a deed to the high water mark, which everybody else along that beach has. You go east of there, they all do that. You're
Well,
still
maybe they
driving
do
on that,
now,
and no
but
one's
100
giving you
years
time.
ago they
And
didn't.
we can't go to you and say, are you legal or illegal, and are you a fisherman or not a fisherman? We can't discriminate. We have to give a summons to everybody that's doing something wrong against our code.
Right.
We can't let you fish and tell someone else you can't fish.
Then why
Ms. Reed,
can't we
can
go up
we-
to the bluffs if
can we
that's
wrap
the
it
high
up?
water mark?
Can we wrap it up? We're trying to give you 5 minutes, but obviously
well-
we keep interrupting you, so if you could wrap it up,
All
that would
right.
be great.
Last year, or this year, 545 permits were sold. At $30 a permit, that comes to $16,350. Oh, it's $60? Okay, that'd be about $33,000. And if everybody that wants their little piece of property cordoned off by putting up a fence or whatever, which has already been done in front of Reeves Beach, just east of Reeves Beach, the house that is down on the beach. I'm sure you all, anyone who's been down at Reeves Beach has noticed that house. He wasn't even on his property, and he was putting up fences and things within the past years. You said something about the Rock Groin. What about the one in Baiting Hollow that was illegally put down there, and somebody said, no, the town will move it, it's ours now. It hasn't been moved, we drive over it when we can. We police those beaches. You don't have to have too many cops on those beaches because us four-wheel drive people are the ones we're picking up the garbage. We watch out for each other. We watch out for anybody who comes down the beach. Somebody gets in trouble, there's going to be one of us to help them. if you restrict us and make this a precedent, you're gonna see more push because you're sending out a big message to these people who are newcomers, who are not true locals, that they can push this board into anything.
Thank you.
That's what I have to say. I probably got more, but I'm gonna let you have your 5 minutes.
All right, next speaker.
I agree with Mr. Gabriel.
Next speaker. Does anybody else wish to be heard on this subject?
I'm sorry.
Good afternoon. My name is Glenn Just. I'm the Secretary.
Raise the mic up, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Glenn Just. I'm the Secretary of the East End Surf Fishing Club. And I've also had an environmental consulting firm for 30 years now, dealing with mostly with wetlands matters. First of all, I'd like to know, who established, you've mentioned apparent high water a couple dozen times. Who has established it?
It was done, Young and Young did it based on, and it's common law, it's difficult. Common law doctrines determine where the mean high water marks are. So they went back, and I think, and I'm not an expert in it, I think you go back 18 years or whatever the common law principles are. Young and Young established where the mean high water mark was for the litigants in the case. Hey, listen, I was the biggest proponent of never settling this case. So we brought our engineer in, Nate Corwin, and we didn't give him Young and Young's map, and we said establish the line. Well, guess what? The two lines were within a foot of each other. And what the settlement calls for is that even though the line is at a defined point in time for today or when the date of it was in the summer, the settlement acknowledges that that line will change on a day-to-day or even an annual basis. It is not a fixed line, and the settlement does say that.
Going through some of the files in Town Hall here, looking at some of the surveys for some of these properties in question, mean high water mark is moved by as much as 50 or 60 feet in a period of 10 years.
Absolutely, it could.
So if you're talking about putting in some posts or a permanent structure, as soon as we have to put it in today, we have a storm tomorrow.
You'd
mean
move
high
it.
tide is 20 feet that way.
Absolutely, you'd move it.
Are you going to move the structure again?
You have my word.
So you have to move it every day then? Mean high
Well,
water changes
you don't
twice
have
a day?
to, it doesn't, the mean high water doesn't change every day. I know
It
enough
certainly-
about it.
well,
It does
certainly
not
does.
change, sir.
The high
With all
tide
due
may
respect
get
to you,
confused.
Pardon me?
with all due respect to you, it does not change from day to day the way it's calculated under common law, but it does change, and as it changes, I promise you, that will be moved. However,
you're saying it doesn't change
let me
because-
finish. However, if we put the key pass gate in or something like that, you wouldn't even have to move because there wouldn't be a structure on the beach. It would just be.
I think a keypad structure would be a friendly nuisance, an attractable nuisance.
It might be.
Frankly, and a waste of taxpayer money. But you say that mean high water doesn't change day to day. The moon changes every day. The
Sir,
tides change every day. So
with
mean
all,
high tide
as
does
I
change
said,
every day.
the way it's calculated under the law, it does not change every day. It is
Where under the law can I look at this? Because again, doing environmental
After
consulting
I
for 30
can
years, I've never heard of this.
I can't do it right now, but I'll get you the parameters. I will contact our attorneys and we can make that available.
Why don't we hold off and make a decision today until you can produce this information?
I don't, sir.
You can Google it. You can
Sir.
Google it because the mean high water.
What would be the hassle?
So let me ask you a question. What's the difference where it is? Because once you know where it is roughly, we only give you the ability to go between the mean and the low. That's all we give you.
Suppose it's put in the wrong place.
Then we'll
And
move.
again, it's kind of an expensive
And
thing
here,
to
well,
take on.
here's the real issue, and George touched on it before. As a police officer, this gentleman here, John Dunleavy, touched on it before. As a police officer, unless you're right up on the bluff, it's almost impossible to know where the line is. If you're up on the bluff, we know you're on private property. If you're down by the water, you're not going to be out there writing tickets if somebody's kind of skirting down the beach just above or just below, because it's not something that that's well defined in the field. It's not. We all know that. It's not today. Wasn't yesterday. It won't be if we settle this. It just isn't.
Well, again, it's just on a personal note, I think you're acting on this too quickly. I really do.
What would your opinion be if they invalidated our ability to drive on the beach?
I don't think it would happen.
And is it worth the risk?
There are other lawsuits pending in court right now East Hampton and Southampton with the same issue. What they're
No,
trying to do is
different,
privatizing
sir.
a public beach.
Sir, with all, we've spent a lot of time researching this, and I'm privy to information that you're probably not privy to. It is a completely different case. The cases that would be similar to us, and I spoke to the trustee, the two council women and men right to the either side of me. We spoke to a trustee in Southampton yesterday. I can't remember his name. And after I described the bill, after I described the settlement, he says, "Oh yeah, you should settle it." He says because we are more akin in Southampton to the bays than we are to the ocean.
He also said that as long as access is not obstructed or blocked, which it is by the groin, access below the mean high water mark is blocked by the groin. And when I posed the question to him as to whether or not the DEC would ever give us a permit to build a structure over that groin so that vehicles could pass below the mean high water mark, he said, not a chance. When I said, what about them allowing us to put sand on there so people can drive over the groin so that they can stay below the mean high water mark? He said, no. So you will have 500 feet that you'll be able to drive till you hit the groin, and then you're going to have to go onto private property to go around it in order to traverse further east below the mean high water mark.
Which is what you have right now.
I know, but, you know, the chance of that groin, this settlement says that we are going to educate, we are going to enforce, we are going to regularly, I mean, it says a lot of things. And I'm not supposed to discuss the stipulations of the settlement, but it's very difficult to sit here and talk to you about my concerns about this settlement when you don't know what's in it, and I can't tell you what's in it. So there's a gag order on it, and you know what, I can't tell you what's in this settlement until after it's settled and signed and the press conference is done, and I have a problem with that too.
Actually, there's no gag order on it, and pretty much everybody on this board has discussed every term of the
But
settlement.
anything, we can never give you permission. That groin was put there by the county years ago. We cannot give you permission to drive around that groin. Everybody does it, but we are certainly not gonna give you permission to go over private property and drive around that groin. But it's done, and it will continue to be done. Because those people who live by that groin don't complain, okay? So I mean, those are the situations. I cannot give you permission to go over private property. I certainly will not. I mean, people yell at us. We got the Reese Park Association. They're mad at us because
he's speaking
yeah,
next.
he's going to speak next. But they're mad at us because our driveway, so you guys can get on the beach, faces their private property, and people come out of that driveway and go onto their private property. They didn't like the way we built that. But you know something? It's on our property, and we can build it so cars can go. Oakley Avenue, we stopped cars from going on the beach at Oakley Avenue. Nobody came up and spoke against that when we blocked cars off of going on Oakley Avenue. There was an entrance to the beach on Oakley Avenue, and we blocked it. Because things have to be done. And for the good of this town, and this is being done for the good of this town, we're being sued for $1 million. And the judge says that these property owners are right, that you don't own this property, and guess what? You owe them $1 million plus court costs, then our taxpayers are gonna be suffering.
And attorney's fees. Mr. Just, if you
To finish his question, I think he asked the supervisor, and he answered it to you about the police. They're probably not going to really enforce it as much as we think.
It would be very difficult for a police officer in the field to determine during the length of any part of the beach where the mean high water mark is.
I just want to address that, okay? And this is an agreement. This isn't hearsay. The town shall immediately advise the police department of the terms and conditions of the settlement agreement, and shall direct and instruct police departments to take all appropriate action to enforce the property owner's private property rights in the settlement agreement. The town shall provide appropriate ongoing training and guidance to the police department and its officers and employees in order to enable the police department to implement the provisions of the settlement agreement. Without limiting the generality of the foregoing, the property owners of the town shall agree upon a map or drawing indicating the location of an enforcement line. And it goes on talking about the mean height laws. which police officers patrolling the vicinity of plaintiff's parcels or responding to complaints will have upon their persons for purpose of determining whether a violation has taken place in order to enforce the provisions of this settlement. They're gonna have a drawing that's indicate the enforcement line. So the police.
That's great.
Technically witness, I'm not saying, that's the answer. on this.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
But I'm just telling you, it will be.
The problem is, the police department don't have
If you're
enough
walking
men.
down there, come back quite tired.
The police department don't have enough men to put someone on the beach all year long.
We're gonna have to hire
We
more
tried to
officers
get them
for
on
this.
the beach in the summertime.
Oh, I got that resolution.
And that's tough. And I don't know if they're on every day in the summertime.
Just weekends.
But we just don't have enough police officers to put one on a motorized four-wheel drive vehicle up and down the beach.
It says it now. Did you have your
We're
question?
not gonna do it now. What we're gonna do is just show them what they should be doing and what they should be known to do right now, that's all.
All right, Mr. Justice.
Did you have a question about tabling it? You had mentioned, and it got lost in that.
I would like to see this information, these surveys, how it was done, what was the stage of the moon, what was the stage of the tide, what was the wind when this was determined. Because mean apparent high water depends on all three of those factors.
And you're right. So do you realize that the mean high water line is an average of over 18 years? It's not one flood tide that came in yesterday, so we're going to move it up 10 feet, and then a low tide tomorrow, we're going to move it down 20 feet. It's not that. It's an average.
In 30 years of being an environmental consultant and working for the DEC,
You know what-
I've never heard that being used, ever.
Really?
Okay, well.
Correct.
It's an average.
I can tell you that in
It's
the
a mean
law,
high water line.
there is a method to do it under common law, and it was done by two independent surveyors. Well, not independent, one for us, one for them, and they were not given each other's data, and it's sort of interesting how it matches. So, sir, I think we've got the line.
I don't think I have any
If you
disputes
could
with
wrap
that.
it up.
I'm done. I'm done.
All right.
I've said what I had to say.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Biegler.
Yeah, good afternoon. Eric Biegler, Reeves Park. I'm in an interesting position. I'm the president of Sound Park Heights, which owns 400 feet of sound front property next to Reeves Beach. I'm also a member of the East End Fishing Club, so I'm kind of balancing both here. Got a couple of questions. I know you can't talk about the details of the settlement.
We've pretty much blown that out of the water.
Just a couple of things I want to bring out, and a couple of questions on the settlement. This this mark of high tide water, mean high tide water, whatever it is, over 18 years, over 20 years, the next full moon, it's going to be clearly spelled out for this parcel of properties only?
Pretty much.
Or is it going to be for the entire shorefront of Riverhead?
It has not been done for the entire shorefront. It is for
I
these
suggest that
particular
people need
properties.
to start looking at that rather quickly, because this settlement is going to set a precedent for other communities that are across Sound Avenue. Sound, and of course Jamesport. Enforcement came into question here, and Sean, I know a couple of statements made that enforcement will continue the way it was last year. Enforcement last year was virtually non-existent. If it's going to be enforced a little bit more strenuously, I don't think any of the beach owners in Sound Park Heights are going to have a problem with it, but it is not being enforced at this point in time at all. We had cars down there. We had we had the trikes down there during the summer, 2 or 3 weekends, and they come at really bad times. So I think enforcement has to be addressed. I'd like someone to address to me the real concern about pedestrians. I am infinitely more concerned about pedestrians than I am vehicles on the beach. The people who own the vehicles, who are permitted to be down there to begin with, are an asset to our beach and the cleaning up of our beach. The pedestrians are not monitored. They are not an asset to our beaches. And we had 2 beach fires last year where the fire department couldn't even get down Reeves Beach to put those fires out. This was right underneath the golf course down there. It's got nothing to do with Wading River. And it was all started by people who are camping out on the beach. They are obviously camping out above the high tide water mark, or else they'd get very wet. And they are lighting bonfires and building things. This has to be addressed with the pedestrians. So if this settlement addresses pedestrians, I'd like to hear that. If it addresses it throughout the town, that would even be better.
Well, what it does, Eric, is it's really just restates what the law is now. You can be below the mean high water mark and above the low water mark in the water, if you will, during certain tides. You have no ability to be above the mean high, south of the mean high water mark. That's what the law is now. That's what it'll be after the settlement. It really doesn't change anything. But I mean, you saw, you came and thanked us. We did 2 beach patrols last year on the weekends, and I will tell you, just the complaints were dropped significantly by just doing it on the weekends, and I intend to keep doing that.
I just want to mention it again. I suggest that the town start to plan on looking at where the mean high tide water mark is for all the beaches, because it will come up in question, and whether it be Reeves, whether it be east of Reeves, whether it be Roanoke, whatever, just because we own property and we don't have houses right on the beach doesn't mean we don't sit there and are concerned about our beaches being trespassed on.
I understand. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anybody else wish to be heard?
My name is Frank Walls, representing Newark Coalition for Frank Walls, yes. Representing Newark Coalition for Recreational Fishing and my club, Striper Coast Surfcasters. If this settlement is passed, it will be a travesty for beach and land use advocates across the country. It will fly in the face of public land trust doctrine, the state coastal management plan, and real estate law. I would like to ask to table this matter so the public can have more time to figure out, what is actually going on here. I don't believe ample time was given to the public to figure out what's happening. The time, what we have here is just a fight for public rights that's going to send ripples throughout the country regarding land use and public trust doctrine. And if one small group of citizens can gain the rights like this, then the rest of the country's rights are just going to go down the toilet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else wish to be heard?
Good afternoon, Nicholas DePiero from Wading River. I just have to ask a quick question here as to how much of a challenge was made to the actual ownership of the property in question as to the 4 property owners that we're talking about. Because it was my understanding that at one time the town of Riverhead owned that property, and here we have a bank issuing a quit claim deed to these owners, okay? Was any challenge ever made to the fact that the bank could arbitrarily issue a deed to property owners when at one time, and I believe I'm right on this because there was no taxes paid on this property for quite some time, was any challenge made to the bank who issued these deeds to these property owners?
I will give you the facts, and I know they're subject to, everybody seems to want their own interpretation of the facts, but here are the facts. Property was owned by one person in 1880. The person subdivided up the property but didn't sell all of the beachfront, sort of east of Wading River Beach. What he did was, there may be 5 or 6 lots there. 2 of the lots he sold to the waterfront, to the mean high water mark, and the remaining lots he kept title. He was foreclosed on. The bank in around 1913, 1915, I don't remember the exact time, he was foreclosed on. The bank took the deeds for everything he owned back, including the water in front of, or the sand in front of their houses, that sand to the east of the town beach. What happened from there is the town, somewhere along the line, and taxes, let me back up, taxes are not dispositive of ownership, payment of taxes, and neither is whether it's written on a tax map. Somewhere in the 1970s, mid-1970s, when Suffolk County went to the tax map system, they arbitrarily, we sent our attorneys to Suffolk County, they arbitrarily went in and researched why did they put Town of Riverhead Beach. There's no answer. In 1980, They had no reason to do it. On about 1980, the 3 or 4 owners that did not own to the mean high watermark went to the predecessor in interest of the bank that foreclosed in 1913 and got a quitclaim deed, which is good title. It just means everything I own, I give to you. I don't know if I own anything, but if I do, I give it to you. Town never did anything about it. 1980, they get these deeds, they record these deeds to the mean high water mark. There is no record anywhere, because trust me guys, I'm the one that sent the code enforcement down there to remove the beach signs. I mean, I am on your side, but we did everything we could to establish title there. We don't have it. And it doesn't matter under our code, because the code only allows with the New York State public trust doctrine, and you may not want to listen to it, or you may not want to believe it. The young man that spoke before may not want to believe it, but New York's public trust doctrine is more restrictive to beach rights than, say, states like Florida. And our code and this settlement preserves our rights under the New York State public trust doctrine.
Okay, and I would just like to ask you a question that you asked about the quick deeds.
Yes.
Was that legal? It was done in, I think, around 1978, 79, am I correct?
Something like that.
I was told, and this is another thing, needs investigation, I was told that in around 1970, we set a set of, what a legal department or whoever does it, a set of standards how that's done. They did not follow that procedure.
They did not file a subdivision. You're correct, but that doesn't
They did not
negate
follow.
title.
So that's how the quick deed. And we have no
No,
record. The only record we
you
have
want me to
before
explain that
1979, the only record we have is the fact that no taxes were paid on it. Right. That's only true.
But
There's
no record to say we ever owned it.
There's no record to say we owned it.
No.
It was never legally subdivided. In other words, we could go back against these owners and try to say you didn't subdivide your property correctly in 1980. That's a heavy lift of the case.
Which they did.
But it doesn't that doesn't negate title. Things like subdivisions, taxes not being paid, or parcels names on a tax map number don't give you title. You want to know something interesting? Back in the 70s, I know people that made themselves quite wealthy, they would go through Manorville and they'd find when they switched over to the tax map system, they'd find all these lots that taxes were not paid on, and then people would find whoever might maybe have owned those lots, and they would do something called a bar claim action, which they represented the owner, or they bought a little bit of interest from the owner, and then they would do a bar claim action, which really is a legal proceeding that at the end of the publication period, the person that brings the action can quiet title, get title to the property. And that happened all over Manorville. That was locked down probably in the 80s. It stopped. But I mean,
Well, I think it stopped because the county went in and bought most of that land up for
no, it
sensitive
stopped because
waters.
the county went in and taxed everything.
And they actually bought a lot of those, they went in and bought a lot of those properties and took them away. The reason I know, my mother's ancestors owned hundreds of those lots, and the county came and took them for a good cause.
I was listening to some of the other comments too that were made by some of the attendees here. And it was claimed that some of the homeowners were harassing the walkers, and they were doing things that they really shouldn't be doing. Is there going to be any protection against people who do walk on the beach against such type of harassment,
Yes,
if it does exist?
They are to take the signs down. They're not, nobody's allowed to harass anybody under the law anyway, but they're to take the signs down. They're not to harass anybody. And if in a year they don't take their signs down and they keep harassing people, we can restore the case to the calendar.
And they take the fence off.
They have to take their fences down too.
Okay, thanks.
It'll be cleaned up.
But stay off.
Okay, anybody else?
Charles Scalfani, Wading River. My question is one of confusion. What exactly is the town being sued for, and what are we defending against? Because I'm hearing about the lawsuit, I'm hearing about the stipulation of agreement, but I still don't know the exact lawsuit. From what I've heard is, with the stipulation, nothing would be given back that isn't legally theirs to begin with. So if that's all they're suing for, is what is theirs legally, what would they be given a punitive damage case against the town for?
For allowing people under color of town law to pass and repass across private property.
I don't believe that's in the law, is it? I've
Yeah,
never read it.
you cannot, the town cannot give somebody a right over somebody's private property to pass and repass.
I don't think anybody here disagrees with that, so.
But that's what, see, and that's.
Is that written in
that's-
our code, though?
That's the problem. No, that's.
No, so
that-
therefore, how could there be a lawsuit
No,
if
it's
we
New
don't
York
have the
state
court?
law. You cannot, these are private property.
No, I understand, sure, well, listen to me. I understand you can't give us rights to drive on someone's private property. I understand that wholly. There's nothing in our town code that says I have a right as a 4x4 owner to drive on someone's property who doesn't give me permission. So what is the lawsuit for if we haven't given the permission, if we haven't got it on the books?
Charlie, they said we did,
Okay, so they're saying we did.
because, yes.
Well, the town hereby relinquishes, waives, releases, and withdraws any or all claims of title, interest, possession, or use of any portion of the plaintiff's parcels as described above.
At the time, we said
It's
we own
basically
that
we
property,
saying they-
and
they're both
anybody
fair there.
can go across that property.
At the time of what?
When there's discussions with
We
those.
thought we owned the property.
We thought we owned it, and with with
So
those property
therefore,
owners,
tell
we
us-
had our meetings, we said we own the property, and people can cross that piece of property. That's what all started the commotion. They said, no, we own the property. We said, no, you don't. The town owns the property.
Okay,
So they took it to court and sued us to find out who owns that piece of property. I did not know they had deeds for these pieces. I didn't know that two of the lots did have deeds since the early 1900s. When we found out that they had deeds, well, then that ruled us out for owning the property. And this is what they were suing us for, allowing people to cross their property and for the punitive damages of $1 million.
We would give up all claim to that property.
I understand what
And if
this-
we
I
didn't give
understand
up
what
the claim, this could go on. If we
That's
didn't
why they're
settle,
suing us.
I've been following this thing since the inception, you know that.
if we didn't,
But I've never heard exactly what they have been
they
suing
want
us
us to waive
for.
all claim on it. And if we didn't settle, and we say won the case, this argument would go on for another 100 years, which
I
we still
understand
would
what
have use as the
settlements
beach.
are. My concern is that we are settling for something that is already theirs and ours. We're just saying, okay, you're right.
To draw.
It's a 100% draw, except we're going to put up a quote-unquote barrier, whether you agree with it or disagree with, that's immaterial at this point, all right? But I just find it hard to say that we would make a settlement for something you have to settle. If that's what you're saying, you have to settle, you have to settle, if you don't have the rights to it, if it's not our property. If it's our property, which you say it isn't, then we fight for it.
We would never settle.
Exactly.
We would never settle.
But what about the groin? Is there any way you could table this?
I
Go to
can't-
the county, let me finish, Sean, please. Go to the county and say, listen, you put this hemorrhoid here, remove it. It does no good right now. It's no longer a viable piece of rock because it doesn't do anything. It's the same thing with the jetties over by, which is a totally different area, over by the power plant. They're destroying our creek.
I think Charlie make
But
a good point.
If we could table it and ask the county
finishing.
just to take this thing out of there, you solve the whole issue in one explosion, and I'll set off the dynamite.
So I think, Charlie, that if we were doing a real settlement, that jetty would be in the settlement.
But the
And I
jetty
think
would
it's
have to-
also.
yeah, but George, the jetty would have to include the county since it's theirs.
And there's actually something which I think we need time to research, and I've read this somewhere through the hundreds of pages. When a government agency puts a jetty, whatever, and impedes access, they have to address that. So hopefully the county did not the landowners. They have to address it. That's in public doctrine. At which point, exactly. So at what point they would have to either move it or give us an easement above it, but they have to address it. When they take it, they took it away from you, they've got to give it back.
You know, we have property rights further down on the beach. And we have people who are in their 80s who, unfortunately, he's not here today. His wife had to go to the doctor. But he's got a tiki hut, we have barbecues down there, we use the beach access to get down there. I don't know if you've been down there, it's absolutely gorgeous, it's been built since 1962 out of all driftwood, all right? The DEC says he can have it, everybody loves it. This will preclude us from utilizing that.
It won't.
It will, because we can't get past the jetty, or the groin, whatever you want to call it.
Well,
And this
you
is,
can't
you know,
get
this
past
is the
it now
problem.
legally.
Excuse me?
You can't get past it now.
Legally now, what you're saying, we can't.
Well, you could
Okay,
before.
but if you table this without the settlement.
No, no, right now, without the settlement.
Right. You can't do it.
You can't do
And I
it.
can't do it with the settlement.
So what does the settlement have to do
What
with
I'm
it?
saying is if you can postpone this, if you postpone this, go to the county and say, listen, we'd like to have you remove the groin, give us permission to go over it, so that we can get this settlement and our people can have access to our beach.
Well,
That's all I'm
I
asking.
contacted we are under very strict time. This is federal court. And, well, you're right, the one has nothing to do with the other from a legal standpoint, but this is federal court. You don't screw around in federal court. And this board made representations to a federal judge, and now the board has to live up to those representations to the federal judge. And if we don't, the case, once it starts, which it will start next week, it will be ready for trial, our attorney says, in the spring. And there is, once the wagon leaves the barn, the people that we've contacted, the attorneys that we've either retained or contacted for advice have said probably the federal judge is not going to let the town off the hook without paying compensation to the other side.
You're probably one of paying their attorney fees. But the reality is, what I'm asking is, until you can get to the county, you got a new county
The judge will not
executive.
tolerate, that's the problem, the judge will not tolerate that.
You don't know until you ask.
We did.
The first time, we had discussions about settlement. The first time we actually saw the settlement in language was the document that had to be signed, which has things in it that concern me, was last Thursday. It's the first time we saw the document. The settlement document actually spelled out as to what was required of the town. Before that, it was just discussions. And so it's really hard to say, you know, if the settlement said, okay, we are going to absolutely 100% require that when we issue a permit, everybody stays below the mean high water mark, provided there is not a man-made structure in the way that prohibits them from getting around it to the other mean high water mark. You know what, if the settlement said something like that about a man-made structure or a man-made obstruction, then to allow you to get back to the mean high water mark, otherwise anybody could, you know.
We can't do that.
Well, I would like to at least try.
We can't do it. It's
our
against,
attorney said you can't do it.
it's against the law. We
Well-
cannot tell anybody to go over private property. We
I
just
know,
can't
but-
do
There's
it.
issues to address, that's all
But-
she's saying.
but
She's
they
not
may
saying.
give us an
But we're gonna
easement.
work with the county.
They
We're
may
gonna
give us
work
an
with the
easement
county
to
to see
go
what we
around
Can I say
it.
something,
We don't
still I have about a minute and a half left?
You let that there.
Go ahead, finish up, Charlie.
What we're talking about here, Mr. Dunleavy, is, and I believe Ms. Giglio, and I have to agree with her, which is rare.
Oh my God.
this guy's really thinking this thing out.
My heart beats still.
You could go, and I believe their name is Hoffman, something of that nature, who have that property right next to the groin. Maybe they would agree to an easement as someone, I don't know which one of you
We're
stated.
working on it.
Well, we
We're
can
working.
work on that, but that has nothing to do with this lawsuit.
Has
They're not
nothing-
involved
Yeah,
in this lawsuit.
It's what it would amount to is if you have that and it's put into the lawsuit, no man-made object, blah, 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 you have an easement by the property owner, then this is basically a moot point. The whole scenario here is moot.
Well, Charlie,
What you're
I'd
doing
love
is-
to do that, but this property owner is not part of the litigation, so.
It doesn't have to be part of the
So
litigation.
anything that we do, right, he's part of the
That's
solution.
all I'm asking, Sean. I'm not asking not to have a settlement. I understand the legalities of it all. I
Okay.
understand you don't want anybody losing $1 million out of our coffers, which we don't have. But the reality is,
That's a
couple of days-
3% tax increase right there. Is
Sean.
what it is.
Okay, so that turns out to $52 on my tax bill. Big deal.
No
Okay?
one, no leader negotiates out of fear.
What I'm
And that really bothers me.
Here, George, I'm just telling you, it's a 3% tax
You
increase.
appear to
we have
have
to
a way
go along with
around
this
this so that everybody could be miserable.
Okay,
No one would be happy.
I have called the DEC, I have Joe Hall working on trying to get around that groin, and we will do everything in our legal power to either get over it or get around it. You have my word. I gave you that in the very beginning. And can I promise it? No, I can't promise it. Okay. All right. Anybody else that has not been heard? Okay.
Greg Conrad, I reside in Riverhead, and before I start with my comment, as I sit here, I am filled with admiration for our elected officials. It's obviously an issue that resonates with people. People feel very passionate about, and you're standing in the arena, and you're taking a stand. And regardless of how it turns out today, I think you're to be commended for your courage and your convictions and the fact that you're sitting up there and listening and taking your stand. So thank you for that. As I sat here and listened, and again, it seems to make sense. You know, going by the Dongan patent and so forth, it's actually the settlement. It didn't at first. I was against it. It seems to make sense to me at some level. The one thing that concerned me and made me decide to speak was when if somewhere in the settlement there's language indicating that the police department's going to be trained and will be patrolling. Chief Higginmill is here. He could probably address this better than I can, but I don't think he needs that extra burden. I think the Riverhead Police Department has enough to do. And my concern as I sit here is it's obviously there's a large group of people who are affected by this negatively, their quality of life and so forth. But there's a small segment of the community that would appear to have suddenly a tremendous amount of power. And that's a little disconcerting to me. You know, I would hate to think that RPD is going to be responding to 35 calls a weekend up at the Sound. And I realize there's no way to legislate that. There's no way for the town board to do anything about that. But that's the only concern I had insofar as that. And I don't know how the police department's going to pick up an additional patrol responsibility here. But those are issues that you're responsible for, and the chief will have to deal with.
Well, I can ease some of that for you, Greg. The police department is in possession of 2 quads.
Right.
That do ride the beach. We do have special police officers, and they get more hours in the summertime. They do in winter.
So
they do have to be trained on these, and I like the fact that they're actually going to provide some sort of a map. So, like you said, I've been down at the beach many times as a police officer. It's winded because I have to walk down here to remove people off the beach, and I don't know exactly where that line is. I don't think anybody can really define it. Some people confuse it with the high tide line, which it's not. It's lower than that.
And I just have one more thing, and again, I recognize this is a very serious topic for folks, but in 1990, I took a walk along the Sound with this woman I was courting. And we held hands, and it was a cold winter's night, in fact. And I took the opportunity, and I honestly can't say whether or not I was above or below the mean high water mark. But I took the opportunity to try and sneak my first kiss. And I succeeded. Our 20th wedding anniversary is coming up this month. And it had been my hope that I could relive that moment after dinner somewhere in town here. So what I've requested the board is a letter of permission.
He doesn't get arrested.
Eric, can you help this gentleman out?
I kiss my wife on our wedding anniversary.
What beach were you at?
Ladies and gentlemen, I applaud you for your courage. This is America at its best, and I'm very proud to be a member of the community here in Riverhead. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else that's not been heard before? Okay. We'll try to limit to 5 minutes.
Good afternoon. Garrett Moore. I'm a Riverhead resident, Riverhead teacher, and today I'm representing Long Island Off-Road Club. For the past 4 or 5 years, we've come out, helped out in May the Surf Fishing Club. We've participated in the annual Long Island Sound Beach Club Town and Riverhead Beach Cleanup. Over the issues with this said access Wading River, we have had our club members physically attacked in these incidences. And I do not think any settlement should be made unless something is done to address the groin issue. That we do not have access. That would limit the cleanup. And I do not think this should go forward without something being done to address this issue. And what my experience is with the DEC, very involved, and I don't know if it would ever be a success to remove something that has been there for X amount of years. So I think something needs to be put in writing Otherwise, this is going to establish a precedent that is never going to be able to take him back. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else that hasn't been heard?
Last one. Bob Kelly, Reeves Park.
How you doing, Mr. Kelly?
Just real quick, it's unfortunate again. I think that what happened here is a unique situation with the homeowner, and you can't really fault the homeowner 100% at all, because he's got his rights and he has his property where he lives, and he's in a unique spot. I fish. I don't get any more enjoyment in life than going out and fishing and also driving on the beach. But again, that's a unique spot. And what else is going to happen is, you know what? The entire town of Riverhead is a unique spot. And I think that's what's going to happen here is you could open yourselves up to more interpretation of this rule, more interpretation of the law. I'm not disagreeing with Mr. Zorni, and I think I understand where he's coming from. And he's got a tough hit there. But what about the other folks going along the park, as Mr. Beagler hit on and some of these other people hit on? I appreciate what you guys are trying to do. I just think it's unfortunate that a resolution or a way to resolve this did not happen sooner and earlier. And I think that goes back to enforcement and not pointing a finger on our department who's been stretched to the max, as we know. But I live there, and they never come down. I wish they could. They don't have the ability to do it.
We did this summer, though. You did.
Never might be an exaggeration, but that's,
You live there, you
they
know.
weren't there a lot, and if they did come
Jay,
down
they
a couple
better be
of
there.
times, it's time of day and it's quality of life, you know. And I think that's what happened with the Zornies. It wasn't the guys that are fishing. Initially, it probably wasn't. It was the uninvited guests that come down there. It was a lot of traffic that comes down there. But if this goes through, you know, who's to say what's going to happen down the block? And as the gentleman said before, how can you remove these structures? That's going to be real tough to do.
Well, I don't think we're going to remove the structures, and the problem is if it goes to trial and they invalidate the code, you've lost it all. And I'm going to tell you something, I'm not willing to do that.
And I know where you're coming from, and I agree. I think it's already reached that point of no return. And I'm just saying that it's unfortunate because it is a unique thing. But the entire beach is unique. And you're going to be up against something else next year, and
Well,
it's unfortunate.
You understand this because you live there.
Yeah.
You wouldn't, we can't stop pedestrians from walking there. Right?
Right.
You don't like them on your beach. You don't like them camped out on your beach.
Absolutely.
It's nothing we can do unless you call, unless we have patrols there.
Absolutely.
And when a patrol goes, he doesn't know if they live there or they don't live there until he gets a complaint. He can't question everybody that's there. Do you live here, don't you live here?
And in that case, the law is...
They have to have a complaint, so they
In
can
that
drive
case-
right past.
Having that thing in writing and in the law is a good thing. But you're opening up a can of worms. Because the other point is driving on the beach. And we know on my particular beach how we let everybody come down to the beach. And it works. It
Bob,
works
you-
because
you-
it works.
Bob, you gotta agree, the beach during our lifetime was not the beach during my grandfather's
It's
lifetime.
changed
along
quite a bit, Jim.
Three
It's
blocks
changed
of
a lot.
Iron Pier, the beach was a lot greater then.
It's changed a lot.
It's, and, you know, 50
And
years
it's
from
gonna
now,
change
there'll probably
more.
be no driving on the beach, because there won't be any beach left.
Right. The way we're going, it's going to change even more as far as driving.
erosion,
goes.
yeah.
It's just, I don't want to kill it, but it's just unfortunate that we hit this point. And I think
It's been
we're
brewing
opening
a
ourselves
long
up to
time.
additional,
Inevitable, right.
additional problems. I'm sorry to hear this.
All right. Anybody else that we haven't heard?
How you doing? Steve Jackson, Riverhead.
Cato Jackson.
I think this is a big mistake. No board before you touched this with a 10-foot pole, and no board after you is going to touch this with a 10-foot pole. And Mr. Dunleavy, you can stop giving out the day passes. You can stop getting rid of this trash down on the beach. So there is an answer. You go down to Warren's Tackle, and you can buy a day pass, go down there, park your truck, and come from wherever out of town you want, and leave all the trash you want on that beach. Town residents have to have a sticker on the car. Mr. Hagermill comes down with his police department, your car's there. You can't leave the beach, the cars are there, they know who's there. It can be. Don't say you can't. It
No,
can
no,
be.
wait a minute.
It needs a little bit of effort, but it can be
There are a
done.
lot of out-of-town residents that have beach buggy permits that use the beach that are not town residents. There are plenty of them.
There's not plenty.
So how
Sir,
can-
sir,
why-
I've been down
how
this
can we
1975. I'm gonna tell you, you're barking up the wrong tree here.
No, we're not.
Okay, sir. if you
You're,
could-
I'm just gonna, I'm not gonna get it loud. You're making a mistake here.
Okay,
You're-
we appreciate
There
it.
is no, we all know what a mean high tide mark is. You're actually gonna sign this bill, or whatever it is, and put structures on the beach.
No, we're not.
You just said you're gonna put some kind of poles and whatnot to show where the line is.
We're gonna put.
I mean, that's insane. That's just
We're not
insane.
gonna put-
We heard, we
Let the
understand.
judge, it's not $1 million, and I can tell you right now, no judge has touched it in Southampton, Southold, or anywhere. They're not gonna touch it here. Don't, please, don't. You pay $1 million everywhere else. EPCAT, all these other people, you've been wasting money the town has for years. Waste the money on the beach. You're not gonna waste it. You're not gonna lose here. Really, stand up and do what you do. How many permits did they sell? 500. You got, there's 500 votes you're talking about. We had a 2 o'clock meeting today. This is very important. This should have been at a night meeting, when
Okay,
other
sir.
people could have got here and got off work and spoke. But no, we're trying to do a 2 o'clock meeting. It's wrong. You're wrong.
Okay,
Have a
thank
good day,
you,
Mr.
sir.
Jackson.
You guys have a great day.
Does anybody else wish to be heard on the beach issue? If not, I'm gonna wrap that up. Let's take comments on.
Oh, we got one more.
500 votes.
Yay.
Robert Gabrielson, Jamesport. After sitting here, it sounds like you guys, the 3, 4, 5, whoever is voting to settle, A, has not done their homework. You're scared to let somebody else settle this in a higher court. You just want to quick make a settlement. This is no different than, I live on the main road in Jamesport. You know what? Cars are going by, they're throwing out trash. My neighbor's had 2 cars in his front lawn in the last 6 weeks. You know what? Let's shut it down. This is no different. This is public land. Define access to me. Please, somebody, define access.
Not gonna, we've been down the road. Just make your comments, sir.
Well, you have the right to ask the question. I guess they don't answer it. Ask the question.
Define transportation along the shoreline. Define it. Define it, please.
I'm not going into a tit for tat with you. You can state what you want to state. We ask you to limit to 5 minutes.
I emailed you 5, 6 days ago about this, and we had all week to discuss this. So we are going to go tit for tat. Define it.
Sir, you have 5 minutes. If you're going to be disrespectful,
Wait,
that's not
our
gonna
town
be helpful.
attorney can define.
I'm gonna state what the definition says currently in the town code, because maybe that'll help
In the
address
town,
the
in the
issue.
town code, or
Town code.
No,
The
no, no,
town
not
code.
the town code.
Town,
This
I'm gonna,
state
I
or
wanna address
federal?
the town code first.
Okay,
All right,
go
let me
ahead.
address the town code. Beach. We have a definition in chapter 48, which is the recreational chapter. Beach. Both the Sound Beach and the Peconic Bay Beach. Peconic Bay Beach. All that area in or adjacent to the town of Riverhead, along the shore of the Peconic Bay, lying between the mean high water mark as the northerly boundary and the low water mark.
Backwards.
Well, that's what it says. It says there's a northerly boundary, so it might be wrong, but it's between that's
The
the
bay.
bay. Sound Beach. All that area in or adjacent to the town of Riverhead, along the shore of Long Island Sound, lying between the mean high water mark as the southerly boundary and the low water mark as the northerly boundary. Then the code says that you can ride your vehicle on the beach. Again, the definition of beach is the area between the high water mark, the mean high water mark, and the tide line. So that's what the code currently says.
Okay, so does that trump state and federal code?
That's the public trust. That's exactly the same.
Well, that's what our code allows, and then you have the public trust doctrine.
The public trust. Did you know in New York State there's actually dry areas that the public trust doctrine
No, I'm
covers?
the one that's afraid to do my homework. Yes, I got a whole desk full of them, sir.
Do
Yes,
you
I
know?
have read it.
Do you know the areas?
I do the areas.
This is not, if you want to submit a legal brief to us, you're welcome to do that. Just Wrap it up if you would.
Well,
I think you guys are rushing through this. You should table it. No case has been won where the land was taken away from the public and given private. None. This area is exactly the same as some of these cases that were done years ago. Whatever the case may be, you guys just need to take a step back and regroup, I think. I think you're scared of the lawsuit, and you're doing the wrong thing here.
Thank you.
Take care.
Does anybody else wish to be heard on the beach access issue? If not, does anybody wish to be heard on specific resolutions? If not, let's take up the resolutions, Diane.
Can I take this one off the floor that was to be tabled?
We gonna do the table first?
Yeah.
We have a couple.
That's because that's, all right.
I have one question, Diane. We have an 8:30 that's tabled and an 8:30 that's on table.
Yeah, because they,
We're gonna replace it.
Yeah. Because we have that chart and they,
Is there anything changed? Oh, I see, they changed the
they
chart.
just, yeah.
And they made it so you can understand it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I'd like to take 8:30 off the floor that we tabled.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
To untable, yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
The resolution has been untabled.
I'd like to move
We're
resolution
gonna
8:30.
amend, we're gonna amend, or replace resolution 830 with this resolution, this version.
Okay. It's still the same, it's still the same, okay.
We're gonna amend
I'd like to
it.
move
The amended
resolution 8:30 as amended for the general town budget adjustment. So moved.
And second. All right, George.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
No.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
The resolution is adopted.
Okay, CDA?
Is Chris Kempner's not here? If you could just open
Yes,
it.
yes. He's right there.
CDA, Chris.
Okay, I'd like to close the town board meeting and open the CDA meeting. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio,
Yes.
Gabrielson,
Yes.
Wooten,
Yes.
Dunleavy,
Yes.
and Walter.
Yes.
The CDA meeting's open. Resolution number 19 ratifies authorization for the supervisor to execute a license agreement with Laufer Wind Group LLC.
So moved.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio,
Yes.
Gabrielson,
Yes.
Wooten,
Yes.
Dunleavy,
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
The resolution is therefore duly adopted, and that completes the business of the CDA.
I'd like to make a motion, we close the CDA meeting and reopen the Riverhead Town Board meeting. So moved.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution 860.
860 is a 2011 Jamesport Boardwalk Capital Improvement Project. It's a budget adjustment. So moved.
That's seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 861.
2011 Stotsky Park Capital Improvement Project, budget adjustment. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
I'd like to say this is for the ice rink that hopefully we'll have up before the end of December. Yes.
Wooten.
And I hope we get cold enough weather to make it ice. Yes.
Yes, that's what-
It'll be nothing more than yes,
Let's
before
all
one.
think about cold weather. That's what we're gonna
Be careful
need.
with that. No snow, just cold.
I vote yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 862.
East Creek District Budget Adjustment. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 863.
Acceptance of the 2010 audited financial statements. So moved.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 864.
The acceptance of the 2010 audited Community Preservation Fund report. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 865.
Acceptance of 2010 audited Justice Court report. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 866.
General Fund Justice Court budget adjustment. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 867.
A renovated building at 201 Howell Avenue, Building Department. Capital Improvement Project, budget adoption. So moved.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
559, 599. That's an extra $1,000. Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes, most of this is our insurance that we had on the building that we had the fire in. So I vote yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 868.
Calvert Community Development Agency budget adjustment. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 869.
General Fund Nutrition Department, budget adjustment. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 870.
General Fund Sanitation budget adjustment. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
We can tell this December. Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 871.
Highway Department, budget adjustment. So moved.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 872.
Sewer District budget adjustment. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 873.
Establishment of bank account. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 874.
Ambulance District budget adjustment. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 875.
Business Improvement District, budget adjustment. So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Okay.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 876.
Fort Pat Motel, Myanmar Park Capital Improvement Project budget adjustment. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
This is for playground equipment down at the new park we have in South Jamesport area.
Yeah, that's it.
And in South Jamesport
Yes,
area.
South Jamesport area at the end.
Yes.
Yep. Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 877.
Authorization for supervisor to execute an agreement with the Gallery Company Incorporated. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
No.
Gabrielson.
No.
Wooten.
Preparation of scheduled expenditures for federal awards. Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 878.
Appoints part-time recreation leader to the Youth Bureau's Mentoring Matters program. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 879.
Appoints part-time recreational aide to the Youth Bureau's Mentoring Matters program. So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 880.
This reappoints clerks to the tax receiver's office. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 881.
Approves amended site plan of Metro Terminals of Long Island LLC. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 882.
Authorizes the town clerk to publish and post public notice of a public hearing to consider a proposed local law for an amendment of Chapter 101 entitled Vehicles and Traffic of the Riverhead Town Code. Stop and yield intersections, railroad crossings, and parking fields. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Public and post, yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes, this is where developers build houses and they put stop signs up an intersection without our town code being amended. And we have one area where that happened, and we have to amend our town code because the stop signs are there for public safety. So I vote yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 883.
This is you, Tom.
Authorize town clerk to publish and post a notice of public hearing to consider a proposed local law for amendment of Chapter 101 entitled Vehicles and Traffic of the Riverhead Town Code, Code 1001-10, parking prohibited, and 101-13, parking time limited. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes. Publish and post.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 884.
This adopts a local law to amend Chapter 108 of the Town Code of the Town of Riverhead entitled Zoning, Site Plan Review, Application Procedure, and Fees. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 885.
Accepts 100% site plan security of Jonathan Troya. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 886.
Adopts a local law amending Chapter 52 entitled Buildings Construction of the Riverhead Town Code, Building Permit Fees, Solar. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Giglio.
After this is adopted, we can get our $15,000 check from Lightbuck for adopting a fast-track program for solar systems on residential homes. Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes, I just like to see a lot of people use this and go green on their houses and make this a reality in the town of Riverhead. I vote yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 887.
Approves extension and reduces the performance security posted by Portview Homes Incorporated in connection with the subdivision entitled Country Trails, Road and Drainage Improvements. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 888.
This approves extension of performance security posted by Stoneleigh Woods at Riverhead LLC in connection with the condominium project entitled Stoneleigh Woods at Riverhead LLC, Road and Drainage Improvements. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 889.
Authorize recreational deer hunting with shotgun on town property at Enterprise Park at Calverton from January 9, 2012 to January 31st, 2012. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Giglio.
Question.
Oh, what?
Are you going to amend this to include that area on Sound Avenue we were looking at?
We wanted to put it on, but it can't do it.
You wanna?
Yeah, why can't we amend it?
32 acre parcel, how do we identify it?
We have the tax
Sound
map
Avenue,
number?
Bathing Hollow?
Well,
Yes.
we could do another one next board meeting, because
Yeah.
it doesn't start till January
Right.
The
9th.
19th is the lottery. Should we
When's
put
the
it in the
next
lottery?
lottery?
We can put it in the
We
lottery.
can put it in a lottery.
We can put it in a lottery and then just approve after.
Well, if we
Yeah,
have,
we
for some
can
reason we can't
ratify it.
opt it,
Yeah,
then.
we can ratify it. I just didn't know if
Just
you
check
wanted
with-
to.
Yeah, I thought about it, I didn't know if this was the time to bring it up. Good point, John.
We can have it drafted
Yes,
and
uh,
then
So
sign.
what date is the next board
We
meeting?
can have it drafted.
20th.
20th.
Can we draft and sign it?
Before the
Yeah,
lottery.
just
It's-
check with
it's
Anne
just-
Marie, we should have checked with her just to make sure. I think there's not a problem with hunting it. We own it, it's not farmland or preserved property, we own it outright.
We own 24 acres on Sound Avenue.
It's 32.
And we-
32.
It's like 32.
32 acres, and we'd like to include that in this hunting season. So that's what we're
So why don't
talking
we just
about.
do a separate resolution and ratify it? Put it in the lottery. If something happens where we can't, then
Pull back a lottery.
Yep.
okay.
Okay.
You're
Giggling,
I
giggling.
second it.
Yes.
Seconded.
Well, no, we're up to the vote.
Yes.
Okay. Gabrielson?
Yes.
Wooten?
Yes.
Dunleavy?
Yes, and these deals, know it's hunting season, and then we're gonna move it out on the roads. So the cars, watch out for these deer. They seem to know when hunting season is.
Michael hit one the other night.
Walter?
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 890.
Extend site plan approval for Head River LLC, so moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Biglio?
Yes.
Gabrielson?
Yes.
Wooten?
Yes.
Dunleavy?
Yes.
Walter?
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 891.
Authorize the town clerk to publish and post public notice to consider a local law to amend chapter 52 entitled Building Construction
Oh, wait, we didn't
of River
amend this.
We should table
Town
this.
We're
Code.
gonna table this, because you
Okay,
wanted
would
to
like
amend
to,
it, George?
Yes. Oh, this hasn't changed. No, this gotta be amended. It's gotta be.
Yeah, we have
Yeah,
to amend
suggestions.
this, so we're gonna, I'm
We
gonna
have the
request
amended
a table.
thing.
You have the amended one here?
No, we have the amended suggestions.
Oh.
Yeah, discussion.
No, we
items.
gotta talk about it.
So we should
Yeah.
table, or
So I request we table this.
Okay.
So
But
moved.
I like my languages in there, Bob. Thank you very much.
Motion, second to table.
Vote please.
Biglio?
Yes to table.
Gabrielson?
yes.
Thank you,
Wooten?
Bob.
Yes.
Dunleavy?
Yes.
Walter?
Yes.
The resolution has been tabled. Resolution 892.
This authorizes settlement with County of Suffolk. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio?
Abstain.
You gonna abstain?
Abstain.
Gabrielson?
Yes.
Wooten?
Yes.
Dunleavy?
Yes.
Walter?
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 893.
Approves installation of permanent primary electric service by LIPA, Plan 17, Riverhead Water District. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio?
Yes.
Gabrielson?
Yes.
Wooten?
Yes.
Dunleavy?
Yes.
Walter?
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 894.
Authorizes preparation of engineering report to update master plan report for Riverhead Water District. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio?
Yes.
Gabrielson?
Yes.
Wooten?
Yes.
Dunleavy?
Yes.
Walter?
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 895.
Awards bid for water service materials for use in the Riverhead Water District. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio?
Yes.
Gabrielson?
Yes.
Wooten?
Yes.
Dunleavy?
Yes.
Walter?
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 896.
Authorizes town supervisor to execute contract amendment with U.S. Department of Navy regarding extension 89, which is Peconic River Sportsman Club, Riverhead Water District. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio?
Yes.
Gabrielson?
Yes.
Wooten?
Yes.
Dunleavy?
Yes, this isn't going to cost us any money, so I vote yes.
Walter?
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 897.
Extends bid for electric motor repair replacement, including emergency repair for Riverhead Water District. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio?
Yes.
Gabrielson?
Yes.
Wooten?
Yes.
Dunleavy?
Yes.
Walter?
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 898.
Who's next in line?
Oh, you didn't have it.
Councilwoman, you're next. in
I'll
line.
call it.
Okay.
Authorizes the retention of the law firm of Stephen E. Lusquadro. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio?
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 899.
Authorize the supervisor to execute an agreement with the Riverhead Fire District regarding unleaded fuel services. So moved.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes, this is an agreement where we're gonna help the taxpayers, and the fire department, like the school district, is gonna get their fuel from our municipal garage. So we save the taxpayers, so they don't have to put in fuel tanks and pumps and have maintenance on them. So we're gonna be saving the taxpayers of the school district a lot of money, so I vote yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 900.
This authorizes settlement of legal action by William Gary Robbins. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 901.
This is. We haven't decided on this one. Is this covered by grant money?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
This is to Dunn Engineering for that bike path from
Yeah,
the
we
Arrow
need
money.
this.
Yeah, this was,
So-
she transferred money, we did a budget transfer
Yeah.
last board
Au-
meeting.
Okay, authorized amendment, number 1, to Dunn Engineering Associates, PC, PSA, for Riverhead Alternate Transportation Path Project. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Why is there not a companion with the CDA? I vote yes. Is this a
Dunleavy.
CDA project?
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 902.
Authorize the budget modification to the 2010-2011 Community Development Block Grant Program. So moved.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 903.
Authorize the execution and submission of a grant application to the Suffolk County for fiscal year 2012 Community Development Block Grant Fund. So moved.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 904.
We need to table this. Dan said there was something, they weren't finished with the contract.
I move the table resolution 904. So moved.
And second the table.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
The resolution has been tabled. Resolution 905.
Ratifies approval of military leave of absence for police officer in par. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 906.
Establishes time of regular meetings of the town board. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 907.
Grant special use permit of R&K Precision Auto Works Incorporated. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
You know, I support it, but I'm going to abstain just because I wasn't part of the public hearing, but I do support it, and glad that I see that it passed, so I'm abstaining.
Resolution adopted.
Yeah, well, you know what, I didn't read, I could have read the meeting minutes, I didn't read the meeting minutes, but
Resolution
I do
908.
support it.
I make a motion to table Resolution 908, that's to authorize the settlement of lawsuit.
I second.
So moved.
I second.
Can we vote to table, please?
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
The reason I want to table, I mean, obviously, I don't know where it is, we have a split board here on something this important. Supervisor thinks it's funny. I think it would be irresponsible to the taxpayers of this town to settle. We've had residents that couldn't be here tonight. We've had residents here today that requested us to table it. There's things we gotta look at. There's amendments here that some of us may agree may have to be changed. Some have been addressed here, some of we have here. We have to do more research. This was put in the town board's lap Thursday. Today's Tuesday. This is a very big issue. We're talking about 350 years of history here being turned around. So I'm not saying to vote no, I'm voting. I feel that we should table this. We've got things to look at. We've had such a short time to look at it, and I think that's the responsible decision that the town board should make.
Well,
So yes, that's yes to table.
Wooten.
No.
Dunleavy.
No, and the reason, we got this, we spoke about this 2 months ago in executive session. We knew this was in the works for over a year. So if none of the council people ever looked into it, that's not our problem, that's their problem. You have to, as a council person, you have to see what our attorneys are doing, and you have to look in and ask questions. And if that wasn't done for over a year, then why wait till the last minute to decide that we have to talk about it? So I vote no.
Walter.
No. Can, Councilman Wooten, can you offer it? I'm thinking Councilman Gabrielson's not seconding it. Councilman Wooten.
Resolution 908 authorizes settlement of lawsuit. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Giglio.
I'm not satisfied with the language in the settlement. I think that the language needs more work. This is what the plaintiff and the person that filed the suit against us, what their attorney came up with as a settlement. We didn't counter, we didn't try and make it better, we didn't try and make it so that we could access the beach around the groin, and I think that it's premature to settle it, and I don't think that the language is proper. I think that it needs a lot of work, so I will vote no. The language was put in our lap on Thursday. The settlement in its true form, even though discussions were made, was put in our lap on Thursday.
Gabrielson.
I would like to say, a lot of these things that came up in this meeting today, I repeat, were given to us on Thursday. There's been talk about this for 20 years, not 1 year, 20 years. I have studied this inside out, I've done my homework, and when this settlement came up to like a day or two, since it was put out there, I questioned some of, I'm not saying who, my council people. And they actually, the response was, oh, that's not in there. Up to a day or two, some of them I don't think have even read it. So I vote no.
Wooten.
You know what? It's been longer than 20 years, trust me. I've been on the force 30 years ago. We were talking about what's mean high water mark, what's accessible, beach access. Beach access is not going to be determined by this lawsuit or by the settlement lawsuit. The public trust doctrine is just that. Read it. I do my homework, and I'm far from being scared of anything, especially bully tactics. But I can tell you right now, the beach access is the beach access. The town code provides for it. The public trust allows it. The fact that our beaches are eroding over the last 100 years, so be it. 50 years from now, we won't have this discussion. There'll be no vehicles on that beach because it won't be there. So, that being short, this, to me, is a big lot of hoopla over nothing, because this doesn't change what the laws are right now in our town, in our country, and in our state. This doesn't change any of that. I vote yes.
Dunleavy.
When I said the year, I meant this lawsuit. You have to ask questions. As a councilman, you have to ask questions, and you gotta research and you gotta look. Coming from law enforcement, I have to read, I have to ask questions before I can do anything with the law. And like what Councilman Wooten said, this doesn't change anything. The law's gonna stay the same. And we can't give anybody permission to go over private property. And that jetty's been there for years. It's been there for at least 30 years that I know of, or 40 years. And we could never give anybody the right to go across private property, but everybody's been doing it. You know, that's up to them. So, you know, we're not gonna change nothing. This doesn't change anything. So I vote yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 909.
Pays bills.
Thank God.
I second.
I think some people up there were starting to talk. You really can't talk now, but there is a public comment session after. Page bills. Yeah, I did already.
We didn't vote yet.
Okay. Yes.
Moved and seconded.
Yes, but I see some people up there. coming
Giglio.
out.
Moved and
That's just
seconded.
one.
Vote, please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution is adopted. Resolution.
That's it, right?
We have one off the floor.
Oh, yes. I want to take one resolution off the floor. This concerns the echo pole that we're putting down in Grangeville Park. It accepts a donation, that's a 4-year period, free of all charges and costs from SAV Watt for installation, use, and maintenance of an echo pole at Grangeville Park, and authorize supervisor to execute agreement with SAV Watt regulating to use, installation, maintenance of the echo pole at Grangeville Park. So moved.
One question. Is that part of Grangeville Park?
Yes.
Yes.
It'll be on the corner, it would be, if you're facing to your right, it would be the northwest
It's a
corner.
community gardens.
Community gardens, it's community gardens.
That's part of, that
At
is
no
part of
cost.
Grangeville Park, that's what I'm saying.
Yes, it would be community gardens.
Okay,
water,
that's
yep.
what,
Did you second it, John?
So moved.
I second it, yeah.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please. This is to take it off the floor.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
The resolution is taken off the floor.
Now we'll
George, you move
read
it.
it. Okay. All right, again, accepts donation, 4-year period, free of all charges and costs from SAV Watt for installation, use, and maintenance of an eco pole at Grangeville Park, and authorize supervisor to execute agreement with SAV Watt relating to use, installation, and maintenance of the eco pole at Grangeville Park. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Giglio.
As the liaison to the Energy Committee and having this taken off the floor without actually running it before the Energy Committee, who volunteer their time to look at these types of things, I did mention it to them, and they did say that this eco-pole will probably generate enough electricity to charge a cell phone, but seeing as it is donated, and the wind will not generate because there's not enough wind because the actual turbine is blocked by buildings, but seeing as it's donated and it's not going to cost us anything and it's a trial and we can see how much energy it would generate, I'll vote yes.
Gabrielson.
I just want to point out, it's not there to generate any kind of electricity into any kind of grid system. It's to be self-sustaining, so it doesn't need a lot of electricity. Widely used in Baltimore, outside of Washington, there's different areas that they're widely used, and this is a donation, and we appreciate it. And I really want to thank Carlos Delatorre from Long Island Green Energy, who really was looking to put the solar cap on the landfill to bringing this to us. So I vote yes.
Wooten.
I, from time to time, need to charge my cell phone, so yes.
Dunleavy.
And who can plug this somewhere?
Yeah, I vote yes because this is, we're trying this out on one pole to see what happens and to see if we can put this other places within the town. And I think it's a good idea, so I vote yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted.
And just one more point, that may be installed next week.
Yeah, let's talk
They
about
said
that.
maybe it's installed next week. This
Yeah,
is good
that's what
stuff.
they were leaving today.
Yeah, so,
Let's
good,
sign
thank
that.
you guys.
Make sure I get
Okay.
the agreement. All right. We leave the town board meeting open for conversations with us on any subject that's not, that you'd like that we have any jurisdiction over. We ask you to limit your time to 5 minutes. Peter, are you coming up to speak? No. Jennifer. Ms. Hartnagel, I'm sorry.
Thank you. I just want to take this opportunity to thank you all for passing the site plan public hearing legislation. I think it will create a more open and inclusive process, so thank you for your unanimous support of that. Along that same vein, I just want to address something for a moment regarding the Wading River study and the process for that. I think that you all have received a letter from the RMPC, the Group for the East End, and the Wading River Civic regarding the request that the town work with BFJ to schedule a public workshop prior to that final draft being released for public hearing. And I think it's our belief that it's crucial to have public input at several different stages within this process. And so we respectfully request that you work with BFJ to schedule that. I know BFJ has followed the same protocol when they did the study in the town of Brookhaven, and that yielded positive results. So at this point, you decided to do the corridor study, and we're in the process, so we just want to make this additional request.
I think we're planning to do 2 public hearings. What did we?
Bob and I are actually having a conference call with Frank Fish tomorrow to clarify what their contract actually calls for.
We'll figure it out. You're going to have, I committed to Sid Bell of the Wading River Civic that I would do.
There are 2 hearings, but I don't know if it's at the end of the process, but we'll find out tomorrow.
We'll figure it out. Worst comes to worst, we'll do it as at a town board work session, which is the only way we can really meet as a board anyway, so.
Okay. Yeah, it's just important for us to have some type of public input prior to that final draft.
Okay.
Thank you.
Understand. You look tired. Did this board meeting wear you out? Try sitting up here.
Glad I'm not you guys today.
Hello. She's a little taller than I am.
Good evening.
Dominique Mendez, Riverhead Neighborhood Preservation Coalition. The RMPC is a coalition of resident, civic, and environmental groups advocating for the quality of life and rural character of Riverhead, representing over 1,000 Riverhead residents, including members of 7 member civic groups. Just wanted to reiterate what Jen said. On behalf of the RMPC, I'd like to commend the town board for passing legislation to require public hearings for commercial site plans. This was legislation that the RMPC advocated for and contributed to, and we believe it brings Riverhead one small step closer to, to empowering residents with the level of participation in and access to town government afforded to residents of other East End towns. And so again, sincerely thank you for that unanimous vote. I also, kind of related to that, wanted to follow up on a change of code that we discussed, I think came up in a work session over the summer. I think you guys pretty much unanimously agreed that there should be a change to the code regarding when site plans would be considered complete, so that easements and covenants and other restrictions.
The easement covenant.
Right, and I think Jody, you mentioned something at the last.
It wasn't going to be a code revision, it was going to be a policy.
Oh, I thought it was supposed to be when application is deemed complete, and that is in the code. So that's what we had discussed.
We identify in the site plan application when an application is deemed complete, but we weren't going to codify that they have to, everything that they have to submit in order for the application to be complete. That was going to be as part of the regulations for the site plan in the information that was requested, and the covenants and restrictions would be one of those items that would be requested.
Is that what we decided? Because I thought we decided we were going to make it part of, to make sure that they had to submit them as part of the code the way they have to submit everything else.
Well, then it should have been in what we just adopted.
No, the conversation was had that was a separate section of code.
Correct.
And Bill was going to put it in the section where all the requirements for your submission are.
Yeah, the supervisor, that's exactly how I remember it.
Right. We have a particular section which describes the contents of the application.
Yes,
What
so
you're
we were
looking
going to
do
put
with
in
the
covenants and
application.
restrictions of
Okay.
record. And he knew that, and it's just probably,
Okay.
we could use a whole, double the staff in there, there's so much going on.
We could double our book with all the submission requirements for a site plan.
Okay, is that
That's
it?
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you. Does anybody else wish to be heard this evening? Not seeing anybody else wish.
I make a motion, we close the town board meeting, so move.
All in favor?
Oh, wait, we have one more.
Aye.
Moving forward, I just heard Mr. Wooten say that you read the public truck stop. This is regarding
That's all
obviously
it does.
beach access, right?
Oh, it does.
In 1,000 years from now, you're saying if.
I'm not sure it's gonna be that long,
But as the beach erodes, that we're gonna lose all of our public access.
I don't think there'll be any beach left to drive.
But what about public access? Is that a changing line, or is that a line that stays in place?
No, that line changes. We could have the mean high water mark, we could say we'll do an annual study on that. That's always gonna change. It's gonna change by, it's an average of high tide, low tide, lunar tides.
So does that change the
Sometimes.
private properties. So
There's
they
people-
may lose land every year.
There's some property owners that have 100 feet more than they had when they bought the house, and there's some that have none left. It changes all the time.
Okay, great.
There's accretion, there's secretions, all that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, does anybody else wish to be heard? John, I think a motion.
I make a motion, we close the town board meeting, so moved.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you for coming, everyone.
Thank you.
I gotta do it with my flying.
You got a key, letter? Come on, don't say that. I got 2 calls.
Absolutely not. You have a town board that doesn't do any work.
Let's start.